Welcome to Fanfiction Hub. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification button for more. We bring quality fanfiction for your enjoyment and hope to better the contents in the future. Now please enjoy. In the darkness, two voices were calling. Zhang Chen heard the voice in his sleep and struggled to wake up. He tried hard to open his eyes, his consciousness broke through the darkness, and he suddenly got up. The moment he opened his eyes, he froze. The land in front of him was in a mess with scorched black corpses and remnants all over the place, trees slanting eastward and westward, and deep pits and cracks spreading far away. What about your own bed? Don't you sleep at home? A dream within a dream. A low-level fighter is a low-level fighter and he will faint. The indifferent voice came from the side, as creepy as a knife resting on the neck. Zhang Chen glanced timidly out of the corner of his eye, terrified in his heart. Oh my god, Vegeta and Nappa. I actually saw the Saiyans in Dragon Ball, really dreaming. Zhang Chen stretched out his hand to touch Nappa and the touch from his hand seemed real. No, it's true, he squeezed himself hard again, hurts. It's not a dream. Nappa looked at him curiously. Hey, I said you are not stupid, are you? It's really useless. Vegeta turned half of his face in disgust. The authenticity of the touch made him understand that this place is by no means a dream. Then Zhang Chen touched the end of his flowing long hair, saw the battle suit he was wearing and the flexible tail, and instantly knew his identity. Monkey King's brother, RADITS. Zhang Chen likes the funny and hot-blooded Dragon Ball very much. He regarded it as a classic since he was very young. Comics, figures, and clothing are piled up in the window. The 7 beads that can fulfill any wish in the story often arouse his fantasies. If there are such magical dragon beads in reality, then life will become a colorful adventure story. Even though he knew it was impossible, he still bought 7 Dragon Balls online for 30 yuan. He thought they were just the quality of glass beads, but he didn't expect them to be heavy in his hand, and the workmanship was incomparably exquisite. Each of the 7 Dragon Balls that entered his eyes was crystal clear and smooth to the touch, as if made of jade. The stars inside actually shone faintly in broad daylight, as if the brilliance flowed on the surface of the stars. The voice is crisp and ethereal, touching people's heartstrings. Zhang Chen stroked the crystal beads and thought, if only I could make a wish, take me to the world of Dragon Ball, be a Saiyan or something, it would be pretty. Thinking of this, he placed 7 precious beads in the center of the window as if he had found a treasure, and used a red cloth as a cushion to set off its magnificence. Then take a contented nap and just pass through. The point is that he really became a Saiyan, just that tragic character RADITS. It was so tragic that I received a box lunch after only appearing in a few episodes, and I never appeared in my memory afterwards. Zhang Chen complained more than once. Goku, you can even let Vegeta go, can't you let your brother go? Is it jealous that Raditz' hairstyle has directly changed to Super 3? It was his fantasy to go around the world of Dragon Ball, but it suddenly became a reality which made him unable to react for a while. Although it is unbelievable, it is absolutely true that he has become Raditz now. The most important task right now is to figure out the situation. Let's live on first. Hey Raditz, you won't lose your memory, will you? Seeing him staring blankly for a long time, Nappa raised his eyebrows and asked. No, it's okay, it's just that I hurt my forehead just now and I'm still a little dizzy. HMPH? Vegeta snorted coldly. If it weren't for the fact that we were the only surviving Saiyans, I would have killed you, you bastard. Raditz had nothing to say. After all, he was just a low-level fighter and he hadn't even overcome the weakness of his tail. In the world of Dragon Ball, without strength, it is absolutely impossible. After all, Raditz's pedigree is too bad, but having said that, the planet we attacked this time is really difficult to deal with. These people's combat effectiveness is not very high, but there are too many of them, Naba grinned loudly. Are you kidding? These awful must be removed as soon as possible. Raditz listened to their conversation and roughly understood what was going on now. The 3 of them were attacking the planet, but when they encountered difficulties, it was his turn to go to the Earth to find Monkey King, and then he was killed according to the plot, and he withdrew from the Dragon Ball stage. Thus the most tragic protagonist brother in history was born. Nappa suddenly rolled his eyeballs. Hey, I said, Raditz, don't you have a younger brother who was sent outside? Although he is a low-level fighter, he can still be considered a pure-blooded Saiyan, right? Difficult planet, 4 people are better than 3, go and bring him. Don't tease me, Nappa, with that kind of trash. I'm afraid the combat power may not even be 1,000. Vegeta said disdainfully, paused for a while, then suddenly looked at Raditz. However, even if it's useless, you will always show some strength when the moon is full. You can bring him here, I will let him know what a real Saiyan is. Raditz was stared shudderingly. Is this sense of oppression in the momentum the difference in strength? Sure enough, Vegeta was different. I understand, I'll go find my brother when I recover from my injury, Raditz nodded slightly. He thought to himself that it was impossible to fight against Vegeta now, so he could only obey for the time being. Let us take care of it here, it doesn't make much difference without your combat power, Nappa said proudly, laughing loudly. Saiyans are born with hierarchical dignity and they call themselves the so-called fighting nation. Once they transform into giant apes, their devastating fighting power is enough to make the residents of most planets tremble. In fact, in the eyes of other space residents, Saiyans are just brutal and aggressive, but they don't realize it. The status of a fighting nation is determined by birth. Princes like Vegeta are born with extraordinary talents and have hundreds of fighting powers. After a few years, they crushed a group of adult fighters and were born proud. And Nappa was also born in a famous family, not bad in talent, has experienced a lot of combat experience and is very conceited. And fighters like Raditz and Sun Wukong belong to most of the low-level Saiyans, and they are nothing at all in the eyes of their senior fighters. Therefore, Raditz is often looked down upon among the 3 of them and has no right to speak at all. No, now that I have come to the world of Dragon Ball, I can no longer die so aggrieved. Be stronger than Nappa, stronger than Vegeta, even stronger than every future enemy and Goku. Looking at Vegeta and Nappa coldly, Raditz made up his mind to start training on this planet first. Different from the Saiyans, the cultivation method of the Earth is more effective and reasonable. Coupled with the use of Chi, the weak planet of the Earth can give birth to so many powerful warriors. Although the starting point is relatively low, Raditz is confident that he can surpass them through practice. He got up from the ground and said, I'll go find some food. Huh, whatever you like, don't be killed by them, Vegeta said lightly. Raditz nodded and tried to jump into the air but couldn't stay suspended for a long time. He tried several times but failed, so he had to give up and run out with his legs raised. Nappa and Vegeta behind them looked dumbfounded. Yes, the reason is Raditz can't fly yet. Damn, what a shame! Raditz looked embarrassed and didn't stop until he was far away from Vegeta and Nappa. He hasn't fully mastered his body yet and he can't even use the simplest ability like flying. In the next few days, he plans to familiarize himself with all aspects of his body for the reason of his injury. The first is the level of strength. Raditz picked up a stone and squeezed it lightly, and the stone shattered with a click. Raditz was amazed that he could easily crush rocks with the strength he usually used to hold a cup. However, this is exactly what he wants to control. With the change of power, the degree of precise control and use can truly control this body. If I remember correctly, my current combat power is about the same as that of a cultivator in terms of strength. 1200 is pure strength and it is about 1500 after adding other factors. Try the current attack power. Raditz tried to sense the energy in his body and gathered them into the palm of his hand. Miraculously, a blue energy gathered at the edge of the palm and gradually formed a ball of light. Energy bomb, Raditz was overjoyed. This is the most basic move. Even if you don't know how to use energy bombs, you are ashamed to call yourself a warrior. With a cry, the energy ball flew straight towards a barren mountain. The light burst, there was a deafening bang, boom. The smoke from the explosion rose, the blue-gray dust spread in all directions, countless gravels fell and only the foot of the huge barren mountain remained. Just a small energy ball has such power. It seems that the combat power of 1500 is not low. But having said that, Gui Zionrin can beat the moon away, so it is not surprising that he has such strength. What's more, the energy ball he sent just now couldn't control the direction well, it could only be blasted straight, which was far from proficient. Let's find someone to practice with, Raditz thought suddenly. After all, it is better to progress faster in the battle than to grope alone. Now that I am roughly familiar with the movement of the limbs and learned to mobilize energy, if I can experience a few actual combats, I will definitely gain a lot. Thinking of this, Raditz turned on the detector. Beep beep. Beep beep. Beep beep. Eh? More than a dozen signals popped up at once, warning sounds kept coming from my ears and the numbers were constantly switching. 250, 582, 322, 455, 890, 1421. The highest is more than 2300. I thought that the combat strength in Naba's mouth was not higher than 1000 at best, but now it seems that this planet is completely close to a medium-level planet. Raditz didn't dare to be careless, so he looked for the weak ones first and headed towards the target of 250 combat power. After a while, he found the target according to the detector's instructions. It was a cosmic man with a frog head, dark green all-over strong body, a row of round white hemispheres on his chest, 4 arms and a weapon in each hand. When he saw Raditz, he retreated instinctively. Saiyan, he exclaimed, raising his laser gun. Raditz could see that the people on this planet had grown fearful of the Saiyans, and the frog-headed cosmonaut's hand holding the gun was shaking. The detector automatically focused on him and the data floated up a few points. Sure enough, when the mood is different, the combat power will change, Raditz whispered softly. At this moment the frogman fired a shot. The light was thin and sharp, containing extremely strong energy directly hitting Raditz's chest. Come on, Raditz didn't dodge and threw a ball of energy in his hand forward. The two energies collided and violent friction erupted instantly, sparks splashed in the air and the fluctuations spread. Immediately afterwards, Raditz's energy ball suppressed the continuous stream of light and blasted towards the frogman. Along the way, the soil layer was turned up, the trees were broken and the air exploded. Boom! The sound of the huge explosion echoed in my ears. There was a large pit on the ground and the surrounding area was scorched. The frogmen had been reduced to smoke and dust during the bombing, leaving no fragments behind. The difference in combat power is too obvious. Using energy bombs to attack is completely effortless. In the joy of experiencing the victory of the first battle, the detector suddenly issued a warning, and there were many energy sources with a combat power of about 300 around him, all coming towards him. It's just in time. After all, Raditz's body was full of Saiyan blood, so he couldn't help clenching his fists, feeling a little excited. He took the initiative to rush out, passed through several jungle cover and found the place where the energy gathered. There were 7 frogmen of the same kind, all of whom looked about the same, the only difference being their size. They were running towards their dead companions when they ran into Raditz head-on. Saiyan, it's a Saiyan, someone screamed. Immediately afterwards, everyone screamed, showing fierce and frightened expressions. Manic, they stared at Raditz holding weapons in their arms, but they didn't dare to go forward. If you don't go up, I can go up. Without hesitation, Raditz rushed towards them and the speed with which he sprinted surprised even himself. He didn't use the energy ball anymore but started melee combat, elbow strikes, side kicks, chain punches, knee strikes, back throws, big head mallets. He used all the moves he could make one by one. Although there was no continuous blow routine, it was just relying on the crushing of combat power. Several frogmen have been defeated. Soon, there were only 2 surviving frogmen left, and they faced Raditz with boundless fear in their hearts. They glanced at each other, made up their minds, and attacked Raditz together. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, not to mention they have 8 hands together. Although their combat power is low, their attack speed is not bad, which is quite a challenge for Raditz. Come on, Raditz yelled and threw several punches in a row. With 1 against 2, Raditz continued to gain the upper hand. His one punch can completely break the opponent's arm. And the quick attack of the 8 hands is completely within his resistance. At first, I felt that my eyes couldn't keep up, but later on I felt that the other party's speed was slower. After several rounds, the frogman's arm was completely broken. The bone pierced the skin and purple blood flowed from the wound. They screamed strangely, the white hemisphere on the chest burst suddenly, and the flesh sac inside released an energy shock which caught RADITS off guard. Boom! The huge impact actually blasted RADITS several feet away. Damn it, careless! RADITS stood up while rubbing his neck and saw that the frogman in front of him had fallen down and died completely. He looked at his body again, except for the slightly dirty combat uniform, there were no scars. It seems that their desperate blows can't penetrate my battle suit. The defense is really strong. My body is not bad. After the blow, I don't feel any pain. RADITS sighed. Suddenly the smile on the corner of his mouth froze. Oops, I promised to find food. On the other side, Vegeta crossed his hands, tapped his fingers impatiently on his forearm and looked in the direction RADITS was going away. This kid, he's so dawdling, I really want to kill him. RADITS hastily cleaned up the corpses of several frogmen, picked a few more fruits from the tree and hurried back. It would be hard to make Vegeta angry. Under his nervousness he accelerated sharply. Suddenly, a surrounding white gaseous flame erupted all over his body. When the energy was released, he felt the flow of chi. In Dragon Ball, true power is expressed through chi. Although Saiyans used to rely on brute force to fight, although it looks powerful, it is actually not as clever as the people on Earth. This is why after Vegeta came to the Earth, he also learned how to control chi. Perceiving chi is the beginning of his progress, RADITS was overjoyed. At the same time, he tried to control his chi and levitate himself, perhaps due to the talent of a Saiyan, and he mastered the skill after a while. Running wildly while training all the way, returned to where Vegeta and Nappa were. Useless guy, it took so long to deal with these garbage. Vegeta glanced at the prey in Raditz' hand and sneered sarcastically as expected. Although Nappa didn't say anything, his eyes were full of disdain. No way, who made him the weakest now? Raditz lit the barbecue for the two of them, divided the food and served very attentively. Although Saiyans don't care if they eat raw, after all, roasted ones are cleaner and more nutritious. After eating the food, the three went on to conquer the planet. Raditz explored the perception and use of chi by himself. After all, Vegeta can master it in a very short time. There is no reason why he can't. A few days later. Boom pop boom. The sound of a series of fierce fighting and collisions was heard endlessly, and Raditz seemed to be able to shuttle among the enemies with ease. In the past few days, he has imitated the fighting skills of Vegeta and Nappa, which has greatly increased his fighting ability. Not only has the combat effectiveness improved, but the mastery of chi has also improved a lot. At this moment, he has gradually been able to act without relying on the numbers of the detectors, relying on the perception of chi, and even feel the flow of chi when he uses energy or moves. In addition, he has learned to fly. The enemy attacked from the front, and the laser gun fired light continuously, leaving no room for Raditz. Raditz dodges quickly, leaving afterimages in the air, always one step faster than the laser gun. What's even more frightening is that he closed his eyes. It seems to be an extremely risky approach, but it is precisely because of this situation that I can force myself to learn new skills as soon as possible. While dodging, he slowly approached. Finally, the time has come. Drink, Raditz yelled violently, speeding up instantly. In the blink of an eye, he had already flashed in front of the enemy. At the same time, he clenched his fists with both hands and the energy exploded from the fists. Before the two enemies on the left and right had time to react, they saw a figure flash in front of them and their pupils suddenly dilated due to the terrifying aura. The huge fist slammed into the abdomen of the two enemies, almost piercing them. The surrounding air was compressed, the airflow was disturbed, and a wave of air ripples spread out around the feet. The surroundings suddenly fell silent, and the rest of the people were dumbfounded in fright. The speed is too fast, so fast that they can't react. Suddenly Raditz twitched his eyebrows and felt a gust of air coming from behind him, faster than the wind, so powerful. The opponent's sneak attack was inevitable, but Raditz had already mastered the use of chi at this moment, and at the critical moment, he turned his back to the incoming person and launched a counterattack. He swung a backhand punch to block the opponent's shock wave, but the huge impact made his arm numb for a moment, and he staggered a few steps forward. The detector suddenly made a sharp cry and jumped out a frightening number, 1,250. Enemies with over 1,000 fighting power. On this planet, he is definitely a master of masters. If it was Vegeta and Nappa, dealing with such enemies would not be a problem at all, but for Raditz, it was quite a challenge. It's actually blocked, Saiyan. The tall frogman stared at his round eyes, his muscles were full of agitation and his bones made a crisp sound. He was very strange. How could he be found after he had been lurking for a long time and launched an attack from behind? Does this Saiyan have eyes behind his back? Doubtful in his heart, he charged towards Raditz without any hindrance in his footsteps. Damn it! Raditz jumped up and sent out a shock wave with one hand. The brilliant light pointed straight at the frogman like a sharp blade and exploded. The violent explosion scorched the chaotic airflow, everything around it instantly heated up and smoke and dust billowed. Just when Raditz was secretly complacent, the frogman rushed out of the smoke in an instant unscathed. He screamed strangely, punched Raditz in the chest, and blasted him 100 meters away. A huge gully was pulled out in the forest, the trees were smashed, and there were continuous vibrations. Without any rest time, the frogman leaped high and jumped directly in front of Raditz. At this moment, Raditz fell down on the rock, forming a big character, and let out a long breath of sullenness in his chest. Huh, what a surprise! Finally, there is an opponent that I can fight with. A drop of sweat dripped from the forehead of Raditz and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Are you laughing? This is the instinct of the Saiyans. When fighting, the blood will surge and tremble with joy. The frogman didn't seem to understand. He raised his arm high and swung it down violently, trying to smash Raditz into a meatloaf. Before the huge force could reach Raditz, the ground had exploded and continuously sunken, forming holes like spider webs. The rock shattered in an instant and the pressure was astonishing. Raditz crossed his hands to block the blow, and the energies in both hands collided and canceled each other out. The frogman was startled. He didn't expect Raditz to completely block his attack, and a little panic appeared in his heart. He jumped into the air, his mouth opened wide, a bright white energy gathered like a vortex, and the highly compressed energy aimed at the ground, leaping out like a silver dragon. It's very powerful, but it's nothing more than that in my eyes, Raditz laughed. After he was able to use Chi, his combat power improved extremely quickly, and he also mastered the secret of instant explosion. His strength increased sharply and a pale arrogance erupted all over his body. He folded his hands, all 5 fingers spread wide, and the continuous energy was concentrated at one point and the dazzling light shot up into the sky. Shine shockwave. Boom! The energy collision caused continuous bangs and the two forces were entangled together. You come and go, no difference between the upper and lower. The frogman exerted all his strength, but it was difficult to push half a point and Raditz seemed to have more strength. Hey, haven't you heard a word? Don't confront the Saiyans, ah. Raditz suddenly roared, the meridian burst out of his arm, his chi suddenly increased. The shock wave overwhelmed the frogman's moves and emitted an incomparably gorgeous brilliance. In an instant, the light flooded the frogman and the shock wave went straight up into the sky and flew out of the sky. The enemy was blasted to nothing. There was only a bit of anxious smell in the air and Raditz squatted on the ground, panting violently. Fortunately, my combat power has improved, otherwise I'm afraid I would have to take some injuries to deal with him. After all, Raditz looked into the distance, secretly happy. Earth, I'm coming soon. After a few days of recuperation, Raditz's forehead injury has long since recovered. He can't wait to go to Earth. It's a good place, regardless of how people on Earth can better control the use of chi, food and beauties alone are enough to attract people. On this planet, he can only eat sour and astringent fruits and seldom eat some game. He can't eat a cosmic being like the frogman. Seeing a blood-gnawing hand like Vegeta made him want to vomit. Sleeping is almost lying down on the spot in the open air, and I have to take a shower, and what I repeat every day is fighting, fighting, fighting. Although the overall combat level of the Earth is not high, the living standard is hundreds of times better than this desolate, broken planet. He made up his mind, picked a good day, and embarked on a journey to Earth. There is a sleeping device in the spherical spaceship which can put people in a state of deep sleep during the long journey, and they can reach their destination in just a dream. Otherwise, it would be too boring and embarrassing to stay in a small cabin for such a long time. However, RADITS did not sleep in the first period of time but practiced meditation through consciousness, using spiritual practice to improve his strength. Until the stored fruit was eaten, he had to use the life support device and sleep device to continue the next journey. 1 year later. On the Earth, the careerists and big devils who tried to conquer the world have become the history of the past, and people are experiencing a period of peace. All live and work in peace and contentment, enjoying a good life. There are a few idle clouds floating in the blue sky, and the field is covered with a piece of green, and the mountains are located on the edge of the wilderness, guarding the boundless land like giants. The breeze came suddenly, the forest leaves rustled, and the grass leaves on the field swayed like green waves, rolling with the wind one after another. Without warning, a meteor-like light flashed across the sky, dragging a long flame straight to the ground. Boom! The huge bang was accompanied by the trembling of the ground, causing people in a radius of several miles to feel the obvious vibration. Many people thought there was an earthquake and ran to the open. But the shock was only for a moment, and when they calmed down, they saw a thick smoke rising into the sky in the distance. It's finally here. After sleeping for so long, the whole body is stiff. It seems that such a one-person spaceship is not suitable for long-distance travel. RADITS opened the hatch and quickly climbed out to get some air. Although the time spent in the spaceship seemed like a dream, the stiffness of his body was extremely real. He impatiently moved his arms and legs a few times and tried to wave his tail around to make sure that all parts of his body were fine. RADITS jumped up and jumped out of the huge pit that was smashed. As soon as he stood on the ground, RADITS was stunned. In front of him is a middle-aged farmer, bloated, wearing a straw hat, rustic overalls, and plaid shirt, staring at him. Sweat dripped down the middle-aged uncle's hairy face, his Adam's apple twitched, and the gun in his hand trembled at RADITS. Even people on Earth who haven't exercised can feel the arrogance emanating from RADITS. Hey you, what are you? RADITS didn't answer, and a number flashed on the screen in front of him, 5. Unexpectedly, he was really touched by him, the legendary scum with only 5 fighting strength. I'm really fighting 5 scum, ha ha ha. RADITS couldn't help laughing out loud, completely disregarding his image, laughing so hard that his waist was bent. This guy couldn't be mentally ill. The middle-aged farmer was overwhelmed by the sudden change. RADITS laughed for a long time while the farmer was stunned, and then slowly stopped smiling. He didn't want to kill anyone, so he looked at the guarded farmer and said, "I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't shoot randomly when you see someone wearing clothes like me in the future." The farmer was stunned for a moment, and then he realized, hey, what are you? Before he finished speaking, he was stunned again, his legs gave way, and he sat down on the ground. He saw RADITS fly directly into the sky, galloping away faster than the wind. RADITS flew in the air, recalling his famous quotes, and grinned. It's really a historic moment. Just as he was feeling emotional, the detector made a beep-beep sound and responded again. This reaction energy is very large on Earth, and the distance is 2333. Could it be Piccolo? RADITS flew all the way. It doesn't matter, let's go and have a look first. Following the position of the reaction, RADITS came all the way to the target. The surrounding area is not a barren hill but a small town. Although it is in the countryside, the roads are flat and wide, the houses are densely packed, and there are many vehicles coming and going. It was completely different from the place where he first met Piccolo in his impression. Has history changed? I haven't started to rebel yet. History won't be so shameless, right? He simply landed on the ground, walked towards the signal source, and entered a bar. As soon as I entered the door, I found many corpses on the ground. The way of death was very simple, like a fatal blow. It was definitely done by a master. There were knives and guns around the body, but they died before they could make a move. Bick, no, if it was him, even this place would be blown away. RADITS suddenly noticed that the signal from the detector disappeared. The other party is a master who knows chi. RADITS simply sensed the flow of chi, without relying on the detector. Suddenly, a figure leaped overhead, with a sword in his hand flashing at an extremely fast speed. But his speed is only for people on Earth, and for RADITS it is like a slow-motion animation which is frozen frame by frame. Only by turning his body slightly, RADITS escaped the fatal blow. The man reacted nimbly, jumped away immediately after missing a blow, and sneaked into the shadows. Hey, there are two things. From the moment you walked in, I could see that you were different. Not to mention the weird clothes, it gave people a completely different feeling from ordinary guys. Who are you? Do you want to avenge them? I'm not interested in avenging them, and I know who you are, so you don't need to hide your head and show your tail. Raditz smiled wryly, and he didn't expect to meet this guy, the #1 killer in the world, right? The person in the shadow was stunned for a moment and then laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, this is the first time someone said my name so calmly. Heh. Yes, I am the #1 killer in the world, Tao Beibai. As he said that, he slowly walked out from the shadows. At this moment, Tao Beibai was already transformed, with the long braided coat still in place. And the word kill on the chest was very conspicuous. But the arms and eyes were transformed into mechanical ones, and the sword just now was also a weapon stabbed from his hand. Young man, I only kill people for the rich and I don't accept apprenticeships. From Tao Beibai's point of view, he didn't seek revenge but most likely came to apprenticeship because he admired him. What the hell, apprenticeship? Tao Beibai feels too good about herself, doesn't she? The corner of Raditz's mouth twitched and he said helplessly, sorry, I just found the wrong person. Find the wrong person. Tao Beibai's face darkened instantly and the corners of her mouth trembled uncontrollably. The world's #1 killer is so ignored, it's hard to justify it in face. Who are you looking for? None of your business, Raditz said lightly. I'm going so arrogant? Tao Beibai was taken aback. It was the first time he met such an arrogant person. His old face flushed instantly and he gritted his teeth secretly. You are too arrogant. Forget it, you are not my opponent. Raditz remained indifferent. HMPH boy, it seems that you only know my name and you don't know my horror. Tao Beibai put his hands behind his back, his mechanical eyes rolled forward, protruding a bit, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. I'll send you off. 100 million yuan is fine. 100 million yuan. Usually I charge 100 million yuan to kill a person, and today I will send you to see the king of Hades for free. Tao Beibai gave a light drink and his figure flickered. In the next second he had appeared behind Raditz, kicked up and whipped Raditz's lower back. According to his estimates, Raditz would definitely break his spine if he fell down with one leg and he would never be able to stand up again. Just as he was proud, there was a huge shock on his legs which made his heart feel cold, and beads of sweat involuntarily seeped out from every pore. But Raditz didn't respond, just stood there motionless. No, impossible. Tao Beibai showed an unbelievable look and attacked one after another. It has to be said that, as the younger brother of Crane Immortal, the first-class killer's martial arts skills are extremely high and a series of attack moves emerge endlessly. The only downside is, for Raditz, the power is too weak. Master, are you done? Raditz grabbed it casually, intercepting his full-speed punch, and with a little force the mechanical hand was completely crushed. Tao Beibai was dumbfounded, sweating profusely, and the snot came out of his nose, hanging on his lips. At this moment he couldn't speak a whole sentence, his jaw was trembling. Raditz tapped the detector, and the number 180 popped up on the screen. Oh, your combat power is 180, Master Tao Beibai, Raditz said as he approached. My combat power is exactly 10 times that of yours. Raditz finally understood how refreshing Frieza felt when he said, my combat power is 530,000. That kind of combat power crushing coupled with a heroic declaration of force is really wonderful. 10 times. Tao Beibai shivered in fright. He knew that the strangely dressed guy in front of him was not lying, and the unintentional aura said everything. After some inner thinking, Tao Beibai resolutely withdrew his aura, bowed his head respectfully, and was extremely humble. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't be so arrogant. For the sake of knowing me, please forgive me. I can give you all the commission this time. Raditz didn't expect him to give in so quickly. Is it not enough? It doesn't matter, I still have a lot of savings, you can take it if you want. I won't kill people in the future, let me go. Tao Beibai's kung fu is not bad, he beat his chest and stamped his feet while talking, his attitude was extremely sincere and this acting skill won't be a problem. If Raditz hadn't known what kind of person he was early on, he might have been deceived by him. Actually, I admire you very much, Tao Beibai, look at your clothing with personality. According to legend, you have a soft tongue that inspires people's courage, a long pillar that hits Huanglong directly, and you are ruthless and sinister. You are really a model of bad guys. I've won the prize. You got it wrong, I didn't mean to praise you. Raditz's complexion changed, and he opened his 5 fingers to face Tao Beibai's head. I mean, you are worth 100 million. As soon as the words fell, a blue beam of light blasted from his hand, instantly drowning Tao Beibai without even giving him a chance to howl. The body that lost its head fell to the ground with a bang, and there was another corpse on the dirty floor. Tao Beibai has done a lot of bad things, and Raditz thought that eliminating him would make a small contribution to purifying the world environment. Walking out of the deserted bar, the detector issued a warning again. This time the distance was farther up to 4899, and the energy was greater than Tao Beibai. Sun Wukong absolutely. He could detect that the energy source was moving rapidly and then stopped suddenly. According to prediction, Sun Wukong should go to Gixianren's island, and there is 4-year-old Monkey King beside him. Raditz immediately accelerated and flew towards Turtle Island. After a while, Raditz saw the outline of the island. The sea surface under the bright sun seems to be sprinkled with countless pieces of gold, and the rolling waves are shining with dazzling light. On the vast sea, Turtle Island stands alone. The warm and humid sea breeze blows over the wooden house, and the mottled sunlight shines on the sand through the coconut trees. From time to time, gulls glide past, leaving a few beautiful arcs. There are several people in front of the room, and Raditz's detector has locked on one of them, the person with the highest combat effectiveness on the planet, Monkey King. Raditz slowly approached Turtle Island, looking down at everything. Several people were talking and laughing happily, but as Raditz approached, Sun Wukong sensed an extraordinary energy, suddenly raised his head to look at the sky and shouted vigilantly, "Who? What a powerful force!" Knowing that he was noticed, Raditz simply accelerated his landing and appeared in front of them. The first time I saw the protagonist and partners in Dragon Ball, I felt an indescribable excitement in my heart. Ah, this is so strong, Gixian was shocked. Kellen on the side also widened his eyes, extremely surprised. Youth, who are you? How should I put it? Let me think about it. Raditz was about to speak domineeringly but suddenly became entangled. At first, I only wanted to find Monkey King, but I didn't think about the next question, why find him? Take him away? Certainly not possible. Grab Sun Wufan? That's what the original Raditz did, he's different. Meet Wukong as a relative and then live under the halo of the protagonist? No, you have to control your own destiny. Both Vegeta and Nappa, who are far away on the other side of the universe, know that he has come to the Earth and will come sooner or later. In Frieza's plan, the Earth is also a short-term goal of the attack, and Frieza, who has long been unhappy with the Saiyans, will sooner or later exterminate the last surviving Saiyans. Putting it all together, he has only one way to go, against Vegeta and Frieza. He is still too weak now. In order to complete his great cause, he needs to increase his strength, and he also needs teammates like Monkey King and Piccolo, and even Vegeta and Nappa have to be subdued. Although he hated the mindless Nappa, Raditz was still prepared to keep him. The most important reason is to really want to see what Nappa's Super Saiyan will look like. For the long-awaited transformation, he had to be spared no matter what. So the question is he going to do something now? Raditz thought repeatedly in his mind, it is not impossible to win over Goku now, but it is difficult to convince Piccolo, and there is not enough reason to lure Vegeta to Earth. Based on all these, Raditz made a decision in an instant, with a slight arc on the corner of his mouth, thinking of a prank. His advantage lies in knowing everything. Only by grasping this advantage can he gain strength one step earlier than others. If you want to deal with stronger opponents, it is imperative to go to King Realm to practice. Do things for Yuan Chi Dan and Jai Wang Fist. He deliberately turned on the communicator, letting Vegeta on the other side of the universe hear everything here. Hey Kakarot, you've grown up, why haven't you killed all humans yet? Raditz adjusted his cold tone. What are you saying? Huh, why can't you understand what this person is saying? Just don't understand. Raditz let go of the tail wrapped around his waist and fiddled with it flexibly, didn't you recognize it? Everyone was shocked when they saw the tail. Tail, Sun Wukong glanced at Gohan, his brows and eyes fluttered uneasy. What the hell are you? Apart from himself and his son, this was the first time he saw a person who also had a tail, and the strange armor and aura exuded by the other party were enough to horrify him. Raditz said coldly, asshole, it seems that you have forgotten everything. Let me tell you everything. There are some things that you must know, including your birth and our nation. A few people were shocked for a moment and did not dare to interrupt. First of all, you are not from this planet. You are a Saiyan born on planet Vegeta just like me. We Saiyans are a noble and powerful fighting race, and everyone has an innate powerful fighting ability. Your name is Kakarot, and I am your brother Raditz. What, Goku's brother? No way, this. Everyone couldn't believe it. The guy who appeared out of nowhere was actually Wukong's brother. He also said that Wukong is not from Earth. What kind of fighting race, what kind of Saiyans? It's too scary to hear. Don't be noisy, listen to me. The job of us Saiyans is to find a planet with a suitable environment, and after eliminating the Aborigines, sell it to those aliens who need it at a high price. Kakarot is to perform this task. They were sent to the Earth. When encountering a planet with high combat effectiveness, we directly send adult fighters, and the Earth is relatively low level, so it is enough to send children. Although the combat effectiveness of children is relatively low, but when the full moon arrives, the power of the Saiyan is going to really come into play, and it doesn't take long to clean it up. No wonder. Gixianren and others were shocked, recalling Wukong's rage after transforming into a giant ape several times. They swallowed together. The warm sea breeze blows on my body and I also feel chilly. No, I don't remember at all. I grew up on the Earth and I have nothing to do with Saiyans. I will not do anything to destroy other planets. Sun Wukong clenched his fists and shouted. That's when you were hit on the head when you were a child and you forgot your mission. Let me tell you, planet Vegeta was hit by a meteorite and has been destroyed. Our parents and compatriots have all turned into dust in the universe. The surviving Saiyan, there are only 4 people left. As the remaining part, you are still remembered by us. Although you are still very weak, you are still a Saiyan with unlimited potential. So I am here to invite you to join us. At this point, Raditz turned off the communication equipment and let out a long sigh of relief. In this way, Vegeta can handle it for the time being, and then it is time to lure them to Earth and convince them. I won't go with you, go back, Monkey King roared. His reaction was expected and Raditz sighed, then there is no other way, I can only borrow your son to use it. That tail is the symbol of a Saiyan which cannot be denied. Don't come close, otherwise I'll be rude to you. Monkey King shouted loudly, his body tensed up, ready to attack at any time, but for the first time he felt fear in his heart. I have never felt this way when facing the big devil Piccolo before, and my mind is actually blank. Raditz flew forward and came behind Monkey King with a swish. The movement in the blink of an eye was astonishingly fast, and no one was able to capture his speed. Wukong's eyes widened and he froze in place. As Raditz approached, Gohan cried wow and waved his arms as if to stop Raditz. Not to mention, Son Gohan looks really cute now. But Raditz had to play the villain now, grabbed Sun Wufan, turned around and rushed towards Sun Wukong, raised his leg and used a flying knee. The flying knee's speed exceeded Sun Wukong's recognition limit, and it hit Wukong's body firmly, causing his abdomen to twitch, and his limbs and bones were all drained of strength in an instant. After stagnating in the air for a while, Wukong fell to the ground, clutching his stomach and screaming in great pain. He noticed the strength gap between the two in an instant, and he broke out in a cold sweat. The others didn't even have a chance to make a move, and they were extremely shocked. Wukong, you alone are no match for me. If you want your son, find a good helper who is as strong as you to chase me. Raditz floated into the air, thinking that this reminder is clear enough. After that, he took Sun Wufan and flew away. Arriving at the landing point of the spaceship, Raditz puts down Sun Wuhan and waits for Wukong and Piccolo to arrive. He wasn't too rude to Gohan. The kid knew how excited he could be, and he would be an extremely powerful fighter in the future. Besides, he was his nephew after all. Wow, Dad, wow, Seeing that Raditz didn't care about him, Sun Wuhan burst into tears and beat Raditz's thigh continuously. His small fist was not powerful, but he didn't know how tired he was. This kid, Raditz, wants to cry but has no tears. Hey, don't cry, I'm your uncle anyway. You're a bad guy. Wow, I wanted Dad. Raditz had no choice but to take the child. Suddenly his brain turned and he had a flash of inspiration. He picked up the branch and scratched it on the ground for a while. Stop screaming. If you tell me to kill you now, let your father collect the body. Come here, aren't you going to be a scholar? If you can solve the problem of chicken and rabbit in the same cage, I will let you go, you, Raditz shouted again. Maybe the threat played a role, or maybe he felt the helplessness in Raditz's tone. Sun Wuhan sobbed twice and stopped crying. You didn't lie to me. Why lie to you? I can kill you anytime I want. If you don't want to die, go and do some problems quietly. Gohan sniffled and looked at Raditz suspiciously. In the end, he still chose to believe, walked slowly to the ground where the title was written and began to think seriously. Raditz couldn't help feeling secretly to deal with this kind of child with the potential to be a master, he had to give him math problems. Raditz lay down on the edge of the deep pit with his head resting on his hands and the soft grass beneath his body. Looking at the swaying white clouds, he relaxed all over his body and slowly closed his eyes. Since coming to the world of Dragon Ball, I have fought with Vegeta and the others every day, or I have been thinking about improving my strength, and I have been sleeping in the spaceship as a routine, and I have never enjoyed the fun of leisure. On the contrary, I took a break from my busy schedule today and rested peacefully for a quarter of an hour. I don't have to think about anything, I just enjoy the breeze, the fragrance of grass, and the sunshine. Where is the sun? Raditz felt suddenly covered by a shadow in front of him, and suddenly opened his eyes. I'll go. Raditz was taken aback, seeing Sun Wuhan's face in front of him. You're going to scare me to death. Maybe because Raditz is not as scary as before, Sun Wuhan dared to take the initiative to come closer and observe. I'm done. Did you finish what? You finished, Raditz realized halfway through speaking and was immediately shocked. Can a 4-year-old child solve problems so quickly? Raditz's expression was very embarrassed and she said to herself, Kiki, your education is really good. At this moment, 2 strong airs approached this side, one step faster than the detector, and Raditz looked into the sky. Immediately afterwards, the sound of beep beep sounded. The keen intuition of Chi is indeed better than that of machinery. Raditz was overjoyed. Fortunately, Sun Wukong appeared in time at this time, otherwise the matter of agreeing to let Sun Wuhan go would not end well. As Goku and Piccolo approached, he went up to meet them. Kakarot, you're finally here. I'm here to get my son back, Sun Wukong yelled, full of momentum. On the other side, Piccolo's white robe was fluttering in the wind like a turbulent sea tide. He looked at Raditz solemnly. I have felt a strong fighting force descending on the earth very early on. It's you who came here, but don't get me wrong, I am not the same as Sun Wukong, I just came here to defeat you. You have become an obstacle for me to conquer the world. Having said that, Sun Wukong had already told him about the strength of the Saiyans on the way. Piccolo did not dare to be careless and was extremely serious. Raditz smiled lightly, took off the detector and threw it aside. There are not only communication devices in it, but there may also be Frieza's eavesdropping device. Even if it is turned off, it is not safe. One of his actions made Monkey King and Piccolo vigilant. It's okay, it's fine if you come here. Raditz picked up Sun Wuhan. Gohan, your father is here, go back. After finishing speaking, he waved his hand and returned Sun Wuhan to Sun Wukong. Goku hugged him and patted Gohan's head. It's okay, Gohan. What's your plan? Seeing something strange, Piccolo put on a posture and became more defensive. Wukong hurriedly asked Sun Wuhan to go far away first, so as not to be affected in time. Don't be afraid, I just don't want others to hear what I say. This device can detect the strength and location of people, but it is also easy to eavesdrop. So just to be safe, don't use it. Next I want to say to you the words are all true and very important. Hey, I'm not sure, Piccolo grinned in disbelief. He is the incarnation of the demon clan. In the era of the great demon King Piccolo, it was common to lie casually and evil people had no credibility in their hearts, so he didn't believe a word Raditz said. Kakarot, your son has been returned to you, this is my sincerity. In fact, I snatched him only to lure you to bring Piccolo over here. What else? Just to play a little prank, that's all. Sun Wukong hesitated a bit. After all, it was his elder brother in front of him and he really didn't hurt Gohan. He wanted to hear what Raditz would say. Piccolo was not as easy talking as Monkey King and he was still vigilant. This alone won't convince me. Then that's the only way. Raditz knew that it was difficult to communicate directly, so he simply showed his strength so that they would know the horror of the Saiyans. Raditz leaned forward a little and suddenly accelerated. Rush. There was a slight sound of breaking through the sky and Raditz disappeared in front of their eyes. Monkey King and Piccolo hadn't had time to take off their heavy equipment and their reactions were a bit slower. When they sensed the breath behind them, they turned their heads and saw that Raditz had already smashed their elbows on their backs. The huge impact made the two people's center of gravity unstable, and they jumped forward, jumping several times in a row before standing still. At the same time, two words popped up in my heart so fast. Raditz didn't give them a chance to breathe and rushed directly to Monkey King, punching out bursts of fists with both hands, hitting Monkey King with no power to fight back. At this moment, he has reached 1800 combat power after training, which is stronger than the 1500 full-strength period more than a year ago. Speed and strength are not what Wukong and the others can keep up with. Sun Wukong tried to fight back, but the strong punch was always easily resolved by Raditz, but every punch of Raditz caused him great pain. At this time, Piccolo attacked from behind with his right hand crossed across his chest in the shape of a knife. Piccolo's speed is extremely fast, the sound of breaking the wind is fierce, and the knife in his hand contains a powerful aura which seems to be able to cut through anything. However, Raditz is faster. Without even looking behind him, he twitched his tail back and hit Piccolo on the knee. The huge force knocked Piccolo off his center of gravity and fell to the ground. Immediately afterwards, a sweep hit Piccolo's head, throwing him 100 meters away. Monkey King saw hope in the crisis and rushed over with all his might. The corner of Raditz's mouth raised slightly and he stopped Monkey King and the blue energy ball gathered in his hand instantly, boom. Smoke and dust rose everywhere, Wukong was blasted to pieces and flew backwards far away. Damn, it looks like it's not an opponent at all. Sun Wukong stood up again, sweat kept coming out of his pores. Piccolo was also panting violently, only being hit twice by his tail, his physical strength had been greatly reduced. I still have a new move, but it needs to be charged, can you entangle him? Try it, tail, I almost succeeded in catching the tail just now. HMPH, your brother is much stronger than you, Saiyan, so there is a reason why you are so powerful. Piccolo showed his fangs and smiled bitterly. Sun Wukong could only smile wryly. None of them had ever met such a strong opponent as Raditz and the gap was almost worlds apart. Sun Wukong even felt that Raditz was already releasing water. Otherwise, he could easily kill any of them. Okay, let's stop here. Raditz took the initiative to raise his hand to stop the fight, shocking the two of them. In fact, what Raditz is thinking is that his tail really hasn't had time to exercise. What if he gets caught by his tail when he is too sloppy, and what can he do if he shoots me with a magic light-killing cannon? Although his fighting power is higher than them, his fighting skills and experience are far inferior to these two experienced fighters. Anyway, the purpose of deterrence has been achieved, and it should be much easier to speak now. Now you should believe me. It's very simple for me to kill you, but I just saved a hand just now to tell you that I am not an enemy and what I say next is incomparably important. Sun Wukong and Piccolo looked at each other, nodded, and listened quietly without further rebuttal. This is exactly the effect Raditz wants. After gaining initial trust, he will start to win over his companions. The wind blew across the field, sweeping up Raditz's long hair and fluttering it slowly and gently. Goku, remember when I told you I wasn't the only one who survived the Saiyan, RADITS said. Even including me, there are 4 in total. Yes, the other 2 have stronger fighting power than me. One of them is from a famous family and has amazing strength, while the other is Prince Vegeta, whose fighting power is more than 10 times that of mine now. Raditz said in a deep voice, and the expressions of the 2 people on the opposite side changed drastically, as if they had heard the most terrifying news. There are actually 2 stronger Saiyans. I can tell you that your current combat power is about 400, and the attack that has been upgraded to the extreme is only a little over 1000, while I can stabilize at 1800 combat power. As for Vegeta, he has a full 18,000 combat power. If you want to destroy us, just an energy bomb thing. 10,000, 8,000, beads of sweat ooze from Piccolo's forehead again, breathing heavily. Although Wukong didn't speak, his whole body was trembling. Even children understand the huge gap in numbers. If they can barely take 2 hits against Raditz facing Vegeta, they are completely like ants now. Raditz wanted this kind of effect, grinned slightly at the corner of his mouth and continued, "Don't be surprised, there are more secrets. We Saiyans work for a guy who claims to be the Emperor of the Universe. His name is Frieza, is an extremely terrifying character. I said earlier that the planets of the Saiyans were blown up by meteorites, but this is not the case. Planet Vegeta was destroyed by Frieza himself." Destroy the planet. Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe. Wait a minute, aren't the Saiyans working for him? Why should they be destroyed? Too much information flooded into the minds of Monkey King and Piccolo at once, making it a little difficult for them to accept. The great Demon King Piccolo used to think that ruling the world was too good to be true, but now a cosmic-level monster suddenly appeared, which instantly raised the force to a higher level, which shocked the current Piccolo. Let me say a little bit. Frieza really needs Saiyans to work for him, but secretly, Saiyans don't really obey Frieza. They are already ready to resist. It's just that Frieza is more guarded against Saiyans, preemptively strike and destroy the entire planet. The Saiyans didn't resist. How could so many powerful fighters be wiped out by one person? Raditz couldn't help laughing, shook his head and said, "No matter how many ants gather together, they can't fight against the giant beast. Frieza's combat power is 530,000. The pupils of Wukong and Piccolo trembled, and their hearts seemed to have been hit hard by a giant hammer, and the shock was undeniable. Such a high combat power figure is simply unimaginable, and they can't help but feel their own insignificance. There is such a powerful guy, he is not an opponent at all. Son Wukong was half frightened, half excited, and the blood of the Saiyan was boiling in his body. "Hey, you don't want to fight Frieza, do you?" Piccolo laughed teasingly. "That's exactly what I think in my heart. Like your style." Knowing that there is a sky beyond the sky, the 2 of them calmed down after some panic. Seeing this, Raditz said, "Our remaining Saiyans were played in the dark by Friezaman. If they continue to work for him, they will be wiped out sooner or later. He has no mercy as long as there is a threat to him, or those who are useless to him will have to die." "But it has nothing to do with us, does it?" Piccolo asked back. "Is it okay? Vegeta appointed me to come to Earth this time, and soon it will be Earth's turn to attack. The most frightening thing is that Frieza's ambition is that the entire galaxy, even the universe, and even Earth among the targets. Goku, you are also a Saiyan. If one day Frieza wants to completely wipe out the Saiyans, he will always find you. Do you still think that all the above have nothing to do with you?" Piccolo was silent. The only way is to resist. The remaining 2 Saiyans also refused to accept Frieza, but they still don't have enough strength to deal with Frieza, so they chose to endure. We just need to unite them and keep changing. If you are strong, you will have a chance to fight Frieza. Raditz raised his arms, and the air around him oscillated, venting in all directions. This is his true feelings, and Frieza, as the biggest disturbing factor, must be eradicated as soon as possible. His words aroused the thinking of Monkey King and Piccolo. The 2 seemed to be facing an unprecedented crisis, and their minds were burning. Saiyan, Cosmic Emperor, destruction, power, all the words circled in his mind. Son Wukong calmly analyzed, "However, it is impossible for us to reach 530,000 combat power in a short period of time, right? And the remaining 2 Saiyans, from your tone, don't seem like easygoing people. Indeed, those 2 guys are very arrogant, and the other one is a prince. It's useless to persuade them, I'm afraid I need to use my strength to convince them. As for improving my strength, I have a shortcut, RADITS said here, deliberately elongated the voice which attracted the attention of both of them. Just die once. Wukong and Piccolo suddenly changed color. Where can one improve one's strength after death? Joke. Anticipating their reaction, RADITS patiently explained, don't be surprised. There is a god called Kaiwang who is a higher-level existence than the gods of the earth. He lives on the planet Kaiwang. Find him to practice. If it is said, it will definitely greatly improve the strength. Originally, you can go there without dying, but the current conditions cannot be done, so you can only use this method. Do you have to die? Isn't there a Dragon Ball? It can be resurrected. You even know Dragon Ball? Wukong was shocked. Of course I did some research, that's not the point. The point is that you need to make an agreement with the gods on the earth to keep your body for cultivation after death. After his recommendation and the approval of the King of Hades, you can go to see the King of the Realm. RADITS spoke with a straight face as if he had experienced it before. Curtain became suspicious. How do you know everything so well? That's all I know. Don't worry, I will die first, but I need Wukong to accompany me, introduce some gods, and we can practice together. Hearing that RADITS said that he was willing to die first, Piccolo had nothing to say. After all, everyone can go to death, which means putting their lives in other people's hands. What kind of tricks can they play? In addition, you need to bring Sun Wuhan to practice. He is an indispensable combat power. Wukong also nodded, expressing his willingness to trust RADITS. In fact, when Gohan was returned, he had already believed in RADITS. Later in the fight, RADITS's performance of letting go of water made Goku feel that there was something hidden. I lost my biological brother. Bick, your life is with the gods, you cannot participate in this practice, sorry, hee. Wukong waved his hand with a smile. HMPH, if you are deceived by him, you will die in vain. Piccolo gave Wukong a blank look, but it's good, so there will be no obstacles for me to dominate the world, Monkey King. The two looked at each other and smiled. RADITS picked up the detector, stepped forward, stood in front of Monkey King and nodded to Bick. Then come on. At this time, Gohan cried and ran out from behind the stone, shouting Daddy. Gohan, Daddy will be back, Goku yelled, smiling as he died. He was actually excited. He was about to face so many shocking masters, his blood was already boiling. Facing the two who were about to die, Piccolo charged up for a long time and unleashed a new move, Magic Light Killing Cannon. The spiral light contained powerful energy, and the glaring light elongated the shadow by several feet. Suddenly, the beam of light rushed towards the bodies of the two, and RADITS suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Damn it, mistake. Facing the Modong Light Killing Cannon, he blasted back a shock wave with lightning speed. The two energies collided, causing a huge explosion, and the air flow swept all directions, and the earth split from the middle, and the cracks spread to the distance, as if the ground was split in two. You really are a liar, Piccolo shouted angrily. No, I just thought of it suddenly. Why don't we just make a wish to Shenlong? It's also a chance to make a wish so we don't have to die, RADITS quickly explained, sweating profusely. Wukong and Piccolo were silent for a long time before they said in unison, it seems to be. It was almost a sacrifice in vain, and RADITS still had lingering fears looking at the scorched earth in front of him. The power of the Moguangguang cannon is not a joke. Even if he blocked this move, his arm is still a little numb at the moment. After explaining it to them, RADITS turned on the communicator, and the three of them yelled and put on a show. In the end, RADITS pretended to be weak and said quietly, damn it, it will fall on your hands, but you let me know that there are Dragon Balls on the earth that can fulfill any wish, and my companions will come to save me, yes, ha 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 ha. After speaking, he suddenly turned off the communicator, the sound stopped abruptly, and the signal was being transmitted to the other end of the universe. The last message traveled through space and was accurately delivered to the detectors of the two Saiyans. Following a rustling noise, RADITS's voice was completely depressed. It seems that he is dead. Nappa was fighting at the moment, and his indifferent expression did not change at all. Vegeta blasted away several enemies with one hand and snorted coldly, poor guy, he was actually killed on Earth. It seems that Kakarot betrayed us and conspired with the people on Earth. As he said that, he waved a wave of light and the brilliant energy directly blasted away a dense group of alien fighters in front of him and even drained a natural lake. The dense air surrounded his body, bursting out with white flames, the ground trembled slightly, and the smoke and dust rolled away in all directions. Seeing Vegeta like this, Nappa couldn't help moving his Adam's apple, showing a scared expression. He is a warlike Saiyan who only believes in strength. He is not afraid of the sky and the earth on weekdays, but he is only afraid of Vegeta. He is very clear that Vegeta is in a state of anger now, and even he dare not bear the attack in this state. Vegeta, calm down, you're just a low-level fighter. It's funny to see how nervous you are. Vegeta smiled wickedly. I'm not angry but excited. Didn't you hear what Raditz said? On Earth there are Dragon Balls that can grant any wish. Only then did Nappa realize, shall we save Raditz? That kind of waste, why save him? We made a wish for eternal life so that we can keep fighting, isn't it? Vegeta clenched his fists and there seemed to be flames in his eyes. When he heard that there was a Dragon Ball that could grant any wish, he immediately couldn't wait to get it. For him, eternal life is just the beginning. The fire in his eyes is the fire of unyielding revenge, and there is a shadow of a demon wandering in the flames. It is the enemy he buried in his heart, Frieza. He was forced to serve Frieza for so many years, pretending not to know the truth about the destruction of planet Vegeta in order to accumulate power and revenge. Now the eternal life is waving to him, which means that it is only a matter of time before Frieza is defeated. How can he not be moved? Nabigo go to Earth. But there is still a small part to end here. No need with eternal life, do you still care about this? Vegeta asked back, piercing Nappa with a cold gaze. I know, Nappa shuddered, sending out the last shock wave. The two decisively flew away from the battle point, leaving the remaining aliens stunned and thankful they survived. On Earth, Raditz returned to the Turtle House with Goku and Piccolo and resolved the misunderstanding with everyone. Hearing that there are such miraculous things hidden in the universe, everyone can't help feeling the vastness of the universe and their own insignificance. I didn't expect such a thing to happen. Bulma looked at the sky. My sister is also traveling around the universe. I don't know if there is any danger. Hey Bulma, you still have a sister. Wukong, Kellen and others were shocked. Gui Zionren's eyes were all bright and he squeezed his hands. I don't know if your sister likes mature men. Bang, a blow from a frying pan slammed Gui Zionren into the sea. My elder sister is a writer who went to collect materials from all over the universe. She hasn't come back for a long time, but she still keeps in touch. Raditz comforted, the remote galaxies are not in crisis yet, so don't worry, but now hurry up and find Dragon Balls. Klin, go find other powerful guys on Earth. Since you are going to practice, take everyone with you. Oh good, but I don't know where they are. Tianjin Fan and Lan Chi flew away together a long time ago, and Yamcha didn't know where to go, so how could he find it? My machine can detect the strength and location of people, but I have to ask Bulma to check it, block the communication system, and then see if there is any monitoring equipment. Raditz handed the detector to Bulma, by the way taught her how to use it. Although this kind of detector is an old model, it has a high technological content. Neither the materials of the screen nor the sensing elements can be produced by the Earth, so Raditz is extra careful. Don't look at Frieza's subordinates, which seem worthless, but he has this one, so it is worth researching no matter what. After watching it for a while, Bulma confidently assured that it could be disassembled and said that he generally understood the principle. The reputation of a genius scientist is not fake. Others can only admire her and believe that she can complete the inspection in half a day with her ability. Taking advantage of this time, Raditz went to find the Dragon Balls himself, while Wukong and Piccolo went to the big island by the sea to fight. Sun Wuhan played with the turtle and the turtle fairy, laughing happily. Seeing Gohan running around, Kellen recalled the scene when he and Wukong practiced beside Gixianren when he was a child, and couldn't help feeling I really miss that time tilde. When he felt it, Raditz had already flown thousands of miles away and found the first Dragon Ball. When Shenlong flew away, the Dragon Balls were scattered in every corner of the world and some places were very hidden. although the radar shows the location, but because of the two-dimensional coordinates, the depth is difficult to measure, so it is often necessary for RADITS to go deep into the bottom of the sea and dive into the cave. It will be even more troublesome if it is eaten by some animals. After spending a lot of time, RADITS finally found all the Dragon Balls. Back at the turtle house, I saw that everyone else had arrived, including dumplings and oolongs. Haha, it looks like I'm late. Raditz put down the Dragon Ball and greeted everyone. Yamcha responded carelessly, but Piccolo and Tianjin Fan remained silent, still wary of him. Raditz didn't care either, he thought of King Kai, so you naturally understand. He took off the 4 planets on Gohan's hat and put them together. These Dragon Balls gave him exactly the same feeling as before time travel, the only difference was that the blooming light was more dazzling. You all know what probably happened. You'd better not play tricks, Piccolo said coldly. Tianjin Fan also echoed, to be honest, if Wukong didn't believe in you, it would be hard for me to believe that there would be such a thing as a cosmic crisis. Well, still doubt me? Raditz sighed silently in his heart, but it was normal when an alien suddenly descended from the sky and said so many unbelievable things to you, you immediately believed that there was a ghost. Take your time anyway, Monkey King is here. Holding his breath, Raditz took a deep breath and shouted loudly. Come out, Shenlong. When you come to the world of Dragon Ball, how can you not see Shenlong? It was the first time for Raditz to summon the dragon, and he yelled out the simple 5 words, and the sound shook the island. The excitement in his heart could not be restrained. He stared at the 7 shining beads, not daring to blink for fear of missing a crucial scene. The mottled light spots gradually faded under the coconut trees, and the sky was covered by an iron-like black curtain. A gust of wind stirred up waves, blowing Raditz's long hair and the corners of everyone's clothes. The seabird was frightened by the sudden change and flew away, and then the golden light shot up into the sky, turning into thunder and golden lightning, and went straight to the sky. At the same time, the deafening roar seemed to come from the void, and the long dragon's chant echoed in everyone's ears, ringing a soul-stirring bell in the darkness. This is the dragon, it's much bigger than expected. Raditz looked up at the huge monster in front of him and suddenly felt that his heart was being pulled. Such a majestic scene only appeared in dreams before. The others had seen Shenlong before, but they were not surprised at all, and their reactions were extremely calm. The huge brilliance flew higher and higher, circling and hanging in midair amidst the glittering golden light, slowly revealing scales, sharp claws, long beards, dragon horns. Finally, the complete dragon was covered under the golden light. The head is close to everyone and the red eyes are shining directly. Tell me your wish, I can grant any wish of yours, but only one. Raditz calmed down and a thought suddenly crossed his mind, asking, Shenlong, do you know where I come from? Everyone was stunned. What kind of problem is this? Aren't they going to be sent to the king of the realm for training? Why come up and ask where they came from first? Not to mention Shenlong, they all know this. Isn't it the planet that the Saiyans are attacking? Ki Raditz looked at Shenlong solemnly, with strong expectations faintly revealed in his eyes. He hoped that Shenlong could tell him the ins and outs of crossing, and even hoped to tell him whether he could return to the original world. After all, he came here on a wish, so couldn't he wish to go back? Shenlong was silent for a while and finally said, I know where you came from, but I'm sorry I can't send you back. This has surpassed my dimension. Dimension? Raditz was taken aback and nodded slightly, somewhat at a loss. Indeed, he came from another dimension. Even Shenlong may not be able to function across 2 dimensions. But he can come but can't leave. Did he really become Raditz and kill someone? Joke. Originally he only planned to experience the fun of fighting in the Dragon Ball world, meet the legendary strong man and then return to the original world, but now he has come to a solid conclusion and Raditz suddenly lost his mind. But what can be done? Even Shenlong said it was impossible. Raditz closed his eyes, took a deep breath and felt an indescribable feeling in his heart, as if the world had been cut apart. It's okay for him to play for a while, but if he really wants to replace Raditz to live, who can accept and adapt immediately, just like making Piccolo and the others believe in themselves, it will take time. Suddenly, a voice sounded in his consciousness. It is the power of the same source as mine that summoned you, but it is not me. Maybe you need to find that original power. This is the voice of Shenlong. It is talking to me directly. RADITS reacted instantly. He suddenly raised his head to look at Shenlong. His mind turned rapidly. So it is other Dragon Balls, Namek or Super Dragon Ball. I don't know, these unknown things are beyond my ability. You need to find the answer yourself. After Shenlong finished speaking, there was no further movement. Raditz' expression suddenly became firm again and he regained his strength. He wanted to find the answer. Raditz, let's live a new life. Besides, even if you can't go back, you have to live well. What's the matter? What's the problem? Sun Wukong saw the sudden change in Raditz' expression and walked up with great concern. No, it's nothing. I haven't seen Shenlong, so I just asked casually. It's too late to explain. Everyone stand by my side. Raditz greeted everyone. Piccolo and the others stood beside Raditz one after another, and Gohan was also brought along. But the Gixian refused to practice and stayed at the turtle house, reading how good the beauty magazines were, so he didn't bother to practice. In his heart, the future of the world has long been handed over to the younger generation. Shenlong's huge head approached again and urged, "What is your wish? If you don't say anything, I will leave. Please send me and a few people around me to the king of the realm." Master Realm King, it's a trivial matter, Shenlong's mantra came out. As its eyes flashed red light, a faint film of light appeared around everyone, and in the blink of an eye, everyone disappeared. Shenlong's confused voice sounded, "Okay, your wish has come true." After all, the Shenlong turned into a beam of light and rushed towards the sky, and then turned into 7 Dragon Balls, stayed in the air for half a moment and flew to all parts of the world again. The dark clouds dissipated and the silent sky returned to azure blue, and the white birds soared under the high clouds, making sharp and cheerful calls. The sea breeze continued to blow, and the sound of the waves continued like melodious music. Gixianren put his hands behind his back and muttered to himself, "I always feel a little uneasy. Maybe there are really Saiyans coming. It's rare that Piccolo will join the righteous side." Why is he talking to himself? Could it be Alzheimer's disease? Bulma guessed. Oolong folded his arms and said wretchedly with a smile, "I must be talking about young girls, this perverted old man." The old turtle shook his head helplessly and sighed deeply. On the other side, the soldiers were teleported by the dragon to the king planet, and with a swipe, 8 people descended to the Star King, making the originally small planet even more crowded. At the same time as they arrived, everyone's feet went limp except for Raditz, and they almost knelt down. Gohan even fell to the ground, unable to move. 10 times the gravity of the Earth. Although Raditz felt it, he quickly adapted to it. After all, his body was trained on planet Vegeta, where the gravity is similar to that of Kaiwang. What's going on? I feel so heavy. Kellen gritted his teeth and straightened his body, still feeling a little strenuous. In contrast, although Wukong and Piccolo are not natural, their actions are much easier. The gravity here is 10 times that of the Earth, which is about the same as my home planet Vegeta. What you will face is a powerful enemy who grew up in this environment. Saiyans are really scary, Tianjin Fan couldn't help grinning wryly. His strong body is under the negative pressure of gravity, and walking is also very hard. It is hard to imagine how Saiyans have been trained since childhood. Raditz, who was still able to move freely under such circumstances, made them very envious, and they all ignited their fighting spirit. Looking at Uranus, apart from a small house, there are only a few lonely trees, a driveway, and an antique car in the center of the planet. Speaking of which, the places where gods live are very boring, and the temples of the gods are also empty, including the realm of the king of the world, which is also desolate. No wonder gods want servants or pets, and they all like to spy on the human world. It is understandable to sleep for many years like Beerus. The long time is really boring. While they were watching the scenery of Kaiwang, an orangutan appeared. "The king of the world has appeared," Tianjin Fan shouted to everyone with the best eyes. "Is this the realm king? Why do you look like an orangutan?" "No, it should not it." Piccolo made a little judgment and shook his head. And Sun Wukong has already learned from the orangutan, yelling O's. Kellen pulled Sun Wuhan, wondering if he should learn together. What are you doing?" A man with tentacles on his head came out of the house, and he wore a strange costume and a pair of sunglasses. That's right, this is the king of the North Realm. Raditz was the first to walk over and said respectfully, Master Kai, hello, we came from the Earth specially and would like to ask Lord Kai to guide us in our practice. Seeing Raditz's sincere attitude, King Kai nodded. Earth, it's not easy for you to come here. I haven't met anyone for a long time, it's really rare. King Kai was very excited when he saw so many people. However, if you want to practice, you must just pass my test. Test. I'm a genius at telling jokes. If you can tell a joke to make me laugh, I'll guide you in your practice. Come on, try it, it's not easy. King Jai said proudly, pointing at Monkey King, don't you run away with my pet, it's called Babris, it can't teach you how to practice. Ah, so it's a pet. Wukong walked over dejectedly. Seeing Sun Wukong's appearance, Piccolo curled up his mouth slightly, but he was also caught in a dilemma, asking him to tell a joke. This is probably the biggest joke. Most of the people also looked surprised, never thought that there would be such a weird way of assessment. Gohan was still young, so he was not included in the test, but Yamcha and Klin easily passed the test of the king of the low smile world. Wang's high evaluation, are you just telling jokes? The rest of Tianjin Rice, Dumplings, Piccolo and Monkey King thought hard, but they couldn't think of any jokes. In the end, with the help of everyone, I barely passed the level. The king of the world wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes with a handkerchief and said with great aftertaste, it seems that you all came prepared. There is really no way, so I will teach you how to practice. Come on, let me see you first. How strong is it? The King of Realm wasn't amazing in appearance, but there was a bit of aura in his gestures which made everyone take it seriously. Under 10 times the gravity, it was difficult for them to move, let alone fight. Several people struggled to put on a stance, but none of them had the ability to launch an attack. It seems that you haven't adapted to the gravity here. In terms of the Earth, the gravity is only about 1/10, which is incomparable with this place. The King of Kai relaxed his body and pointed to Babris on the side. Well, you first race against Babris, whoever can catch him will be considered qualified, and then I will teach him. It's fun to catch this orangutan. Yes, Wukong and the others immediately lifted their spirits when they heard this. Sun Wukong entrusted Gohan to the King of the World and let Gohan slowly adapt to the environment. After all, he has the blood of Saiyans. He believes that Gohan has this potential. This is also the reason why Goku didn't object when Raditz proposed to let Gohan join. Sun Wukong, I won't lose to you this time. Piccolo walked over first, wearing a heavy suit. He was faster than everyone else and he was basically able to walk quickly. Except for Wukong, the others struggled a lot and the distance gradually opened up. And Babris watched a group of stupid earthlings approaching him very calmly and didn't pay attention at all. He disappeared as soon as he jumped out, and everyone who had just approached a little bit wasted their previous efforts. King Kai looked at them proudly and was leading Gohan to go back when he suddenly saw Raditz. Why don't you go? This point of gravity has no effect on me. I want to start practicing directly, Raditz said directly. King Kai frowned, looking at Raditz's battle suit and tail. His face changed slightly. Are you a Saiyan? No wonder your planet's gravity is similar to that of this place, but why are you with the people on Earth? It's like this, within a year there will be 2 Saiyans attacking the Earth. We came here to guard against them. In any case, we want to cultivate enough to fight against them. Saiyan, that's going to be difficult. By the way, aren't you also a Saiyan? King Kai was a little confused. I'm not like them, I want to stop them. Well, you really don't have any evil spirit in you. Of course, I am one of the top 10 outstanding youths and I have been certified by the community, Raditz thought. In fact, the soul under this body has been replaced. Although some aliens were killed during the time travel, those are not good things. They can be counted as punishment for evil. So even the records in Hades' booklet have changed and now Raditz is a completely good person. Only then did the 2 antennae of King Kai vibrate, as if the antenna was receiving a signal. Let me see, well indeed they are coming to the Earth. There are about 10 months left, don't worry, you will make rapid progress in practicing here. However, one of them is very powerful, I'm afraid after training it may not be an opponent. No problem, I'm also a Saiyan, Raditz said confidently, please train me directly. He is confident that it should be enough to deal with the incoming Saiyans, but Raditz is still not satisfied with this. There is not much time left for training. Where is Frieza behind the Saiyans? And what about the other ambitious guys in the universe? Not even close. Therefore, he attaches great importance to the cultivation on the King of the World. At this stage, the King of the World is the most outstanding mentor. Although Kaiwang's strength may be a bit weak, his two unique skills and cultivation methods are worth learning. If it wasn't for learning his Kaiwangquan, Raditz would not have come here specially. Kaiwang looked at Raditz's firm expression and couldn't help thinking to himself, this guy is not bad, maybe he can use Kaiwangquan to the extreme. Well, the first practice begins now. You try to hold this child and then avoid my attack. King Kai threw Son Gohan to Raditz. You can't let him and yourself suffer a little injury. If you can do it, then proceed to the second practice. Protect Son Gohan? Raditz hugged Gohan, who was too tired to speak, a little excitedly. Gohan, don't be afraid later. After saying that, he assumed a posture of preparation and King Kai immediately attacked. In the next second, overwhelming Qigong bullets shot at Raditz. The aspect about the good and evil of the soul has been changed. The Kaiwang's Qigong waves shot out in all directions, flying towards Raditz from all angles. Raditz hugged Sun Wuhan. His body movements were a little sluggish, but fortunately he was already familiar with gravity. He moved with all his strength to dodge at high speed, jumped in the dense Qigong wave encirclement and repeatedly escaped the attack. In the blink of an eye, dozens of attacks came and went, all of which were dodged by Raditz. It seems too easy. The king of the realm was surprised that the Saiyans were so powerful and immediately shouted, I have to speed up. As he said that, the king of the world launched a more violent attack. His hand moved faster, and Qigong bullets hit him one after another. The first shot grazed Raditz's back and almost slid past, making him terrified. Without giving him much time to be surprised, the second and third shots came one after another. The super-fast speed made Raditz flustered and he was no longer as relaxed as before. Boom! The third shot hit him. With an explosion, the smoke and dust filled the air and Raditz rolled a few times before falling to the ground. He could feel his internal organs being scattered and severe pain came from every nerve. What's worse, Sun Wuhan was also stunned by the explosion and fell directly on his chest, crushing him, out of breath. Damn, it's not even close. Raditz smiled wryly, got up again, and continued to practice. In this way, everyone was immersed in the practice without any slack. The king of the world broadcasts to them the time when the Saiyans will arrive every day, which makes everyone tighten their nerves and work harder. In addition to regular practice, Raditz also does some physical exercises every day, which is harder than others, and his progress is amazing. The king of the world saw it and praised it again and again, and at the same time marveled at the great fighting potential of the Saiyans. It took a month for both Goku and Piccolo to catch Babris and join Raditz while the others continued to chase hard. Sun Wuhan is worthy of his Saiyan blood and gradually became familiar with 10 times the gravity and was able to walk slowly. In the blink of an eye, half a year has passed, and almost everyone has made rapid progress under the guidance of King Kai. Raditz chose Wukong as his partner, but Piccolo couldn't get along with the others and finally partnered with Sun Wuhan. The others also paired up and each started combat training. The loud noise oscillated in the sky above Juangsing and the two figures intertwined, leaving only their remnants of breath in the air. The strength of the fist spread and gusts of wind were blown up, wrinkling the silk-like grass of the king of the world, undulating like waves. Monkey King and Raditz. The staggered figures of the two stopped in the air and turned around again to confront them. Wukong waved his right fist and hit Raditz's face with a hook hammer. The powerful force caused strong wind to hit his face and the air flow whirled. Raditz stretched out his left hand unhurriedly and grabbed Wukong's fist before Wukong's fist strength could be exerted. Monkey King wanted to break free, but he was not as strong as Raditz, so he quickly flew his left leg. Raditz had expected it a long time ago, raised his right hand and blocked the kick with his arm. Immediately afterwards, he flipped his wrist and grabbed Wukong's ankle instead. He swung his right hand down hard and let go of his left hand instantly. Whoosh! Boom! A big hole was smashed into the ground, and Wukong lay in the center of the hole, screaming in pain. It's not over yet? RADITS took advantage of the victory and pursued, releasing several Qigong bombs in a row, blasting at Monkey King just like when the king of the world trained him. Wukong immediately jumped out of the stone pit, dodged quickly and approached RADITS while jumping and dodging. He had already adapted to the burden of gravity and he was not wearing heavy clothes at this moment and his speed was extremely fast. After a few flashes, he had already arrived in front of RADITS. RADITS had been on guard for a long time, raised his leg and swept across. Sweep kicked towards Sun Wukong, drew a sharp arc in the air and hit his waist directly. At this moment, a red light erupted from Sun Wukong's side and his arrogance was extremely strong. In an instant, Wukong disappeared so fast that even RADITS didn't see it. World King Fist. When he reacted, Sun Wukong had already appeared behind him, clasped his hands together like a hammer and raised it above his head, hammering down hard. In the nick of time, RADITS turned his body to an almost impossible angle, narrowly avoiding Wukong's attack. If so, just the strong wind brought by the punch has already shattered a corner of the shoulder armor of the battle suit. Wukong still wanted to continue to attack, so he stuck his body up and threw several punches in a row. Don't be too complacent. RADITS dodged left and right, adjusted his posture and then started to fight back. The two of them confronted each other with both fists, attacking continuously in a frantic manner. In the air, only shadows of their fists could be seen, but no real fists could be seen. With hundreds of punches back and forth, both RADITS and Wukong became more and more excited as they fought. The blood of the Saiyans was ignited, and they used the most instinctive and fierce fighting methods. They directly collided with each other, causing violent shock waves. Sun Wukong became more and more courageous in the battle, and his strength was strengthened by the Kaiwenquan, making him no less than RADITS. On the other hand, RADITS was gradually suppressed by Wukong, and he often got tricked in between. Excited, RADITS gritted his teeth and shouted and also used the Kaio fist. Red rays of light erupted all over his body, burning like flames, and his fighting power was soaring. It was almost an instant, and Monkey King had no time to react, so he had to continue to attack. The figures of the two penetrated the air, and their fists collided with each other, making a loud bang. The air ripples like a storm flew in all directions. This time, RADITS directly hit Wukong's chest with a punch. The force of the punch seemed to penetrate into Wukong's body, and he was sent flying with a bang. After being punched, Wukong hit the ground again, creating a deep hole, and the state of Kaiwenquan has dissipated. This situation made RADITS involuntarily turn on the pretentious mode and shouted with his hands on his hips, "My stupid brother, with your incomplete combat power, you can't defeat me." With such a second-year speech, even RADITS himself felt a little embarrassed after speaking. Seeing other people looking at him blankly, RADITS blushed even more, feeling ashamed. "Wow, that's amazing," Gohan was the first to exclaim. "Yeah, as expected of RADITS. Wukong's brother is much stronger than Wukong. The words are also very domineering, I have to work hard." Although Piccolo didn't praise him, he stretched out his fist at Gohan. "Boy, look, we're fighting." As he spoke, he punched Gohan in the face, followed by an inaudible "there was a slight cut." RADITS was caught off guard by the sudden reversal. It turned out that they were still doing this. Looking at Monkey King, who was slowly getting up again, RADITS felt a sense of crisis. If he hadn't used the Kaiweng fist just now, he might be weaker than Monkey King. Sure enough, Wukong's talent is very high. Practice even harder. It seems that even if you use the out-of-realm King fist, you are not my brother's opponent. Sun Wukong scratched his head and sat down on the ground a little discouraged. At this time, Piccolo suddenly appeared behind Wukong. His hat and cloak had been taken off, and he put on a fighting posture, staring closely at RADITS. "Continue to the second round, the two of us join forces as usual. This time, maybe we can beat you." A sense of self-confidence surged in Piccolo. In addition to training with Son Gohan and accepting the guidance of King Kai, he has also worked hard on extra cultivation by himself for so many days. At this moment, he is not the same as he was half a year ago. The two masters unite against RADITS, the others also stopped and all turned their gazes to this side. The two of you may not be enough otherwise. Raditz glanced around. You two go together. Whoa, what a big tone. What did you say? Piccolo was furious and he simply ignored him. The others were also somewhat displeased. Everyone had worked so hard to practice for so long and they were all making progress and even felt that there had been a radical change. To be so contemptuous, who can bear it? Wukong, on the other hand, looked serious and clenched his fists tightly. He's not wrong, to be honest. If you don't fight with him, there is no possibility of winning. Sun Wukong looked at Raditz floating in midair, dripping a line of sweat. In the fierce battle just now, he had already consumed some physical strength, and he knew very well that Raditz hadn't really contributed yet. He knew the gap between the two the moment he used the out-of-realm King Fist. The King of Kai only taught Raditz and Goku. Piccolo still has a bit of hostility in his heart, while the bodies of the others are not up to the conditions and they can at most double the strength of the base. The King of Kai doesn't want to let private hidden stunts are spread so easily, to teach only those who can play to the extreme. Undoubtedly, Raditz and Wukong can meet the conditions. But there is still a gap between the two in the use of Kaiweng Fist. Wukong can see this, Kaiweng knows it, and Raditz himself understands it better. That's why he is so confident and dares to challenge everyone. Since Wukong has said so, let's join hands once. Kellen believed Wukong's words more. HMPH, get out of the way. Piccolo yelled and rushed out immediately, accumulating strength with both hands and shot out 2 green shock waves. The shock wave with a diameter of 1 meter scorched the air and made a buzzing sound, hitting Raditz directly. Raditz moved just as the shock wave hit him. With a light wave of his hand, he directly bounced off the shock wave and the dazzling light flew into the distance, surprisingly relaxed. However, after a slight start, Piccolo took the opportunity to appear behind him, slashing down with his sword. The corner of Raditz's mouth curled up slightly and the tail around his waist moved suddenly, bringing a strong wind. Still a tail, the whip-like force swept across Piccolo's waist, sending Piccolo flying tens of meters. You really don't have a long memory. Did you forget that I still have this weapon? Raditz wagged his tail, stood in the air and beckoned to the others, come together. Then we won't be polite, let's go. Tianjin Fan clenched his fists and rushed forward, attacking unceremoniously. Kellen, Yamcha and Jaya Ozi followed closely behind and surrounded him. The 4 of them attacked in quick succession, with fists and feet following each other. Hundreds of attacks came from all directions at the same time, leaving no room for them. Hit. The offensive came suddenly like a torrential rain, and Raditz greeted it at a faster speed, as if he had grown 8 hands, and he was able to deal with the siege from all sides with ease. A series of crackling and fighting sounds shook the clouds in Huanquan to recede slightly. The crowd became more and more frightened. Facing the siege of 4 people, Raditz was so relaxed that his expression remained unchanged. It's just unbelievable. If they continue to fight, their chances of winning are slim. Gritting his teeth, Kellen jumped a distance and shouted, "Close your eyes." Following the call, he spread his 5 fingers with the back of his hand facing forward, and his bald head shone with dazzling light. Sun punch. Not good. Raditz groaned lightly, feeling as if his eyes were pierced by a needle under the strong light, and instinctively closed his eyes. The burning sensation remaining in his eyes made him unable to open his eyes to look at people for a while. At this moment, Tianjin Fan and Yamcha attacked from left to right. Yamcha even used the new spike wind fist. The punch speed was astonishingly fast, like several wolves riding the wind fiercely pounced, causing a storm. As soon as Raditz was about to be hit, there was a drastic change. Raditz already knew how to perceive chi. Although he couldn't see it with his eyes, he could detect the aura of their attack, so he blasted out a qigong wave on the left and right, hitting the 2 of them. Pong! Whizzing! 2 figures fell straight from the sky and hit the ground, forming a huge pit. Countless rubble rose from the entire land, and vertical and horizontal cracks spread all the way to the feet of the King of the Realm. The King of the Realm on the side watched his planet being bombed into pits and felt distressed to death. I said in my heart that you bastards are going to fight back to Earth. But no one pays attention to him at all. Raditz knew it wasn't over yet because there was a stronger aura rising from below, and the extremely strong combat power was concentrated at one point, approaching the limit of explosion. Turtle Pai Kai Gong. Really, it's Monkey King's Kampi Qigong. Raditz's fighting spirit was aroused and his whole body tensed up instantly and arrogance erupted around him. With his hands down, he also gathered energy, shining shock wave. Dazzling rays of light collided in midair, forming a huge ball of light at the junction, and the surrounding airflow was as sharp as a blade, crazily cutting the air and whizzing past with a sharp sound. At the same moment, Jaya-Ozi tried to control Raditz with superpowers and Piccolo rushed from the side. Kaiweng Fist? Sun Wukong seized the opportunity and burst out with all his strength, red flames burning all over his body, doubling the power of Kamhi Qigong. His muscles were also swollen, his forehead was bruised, and he was sweating profusely. The ball of light moved towards Raditz quickly, about to drown him. Raditz had already gritted his teeth against Kamhi's Qigong reluctantly. Although Dumpling's superpower had no effect, Piccolo's attack worried him. In desperation, he had to use his hidden power. The same as the Kaiweng Fist. In the blink of an eye, the power of the shock wave doubled, suppressing Kamhi's Qigong back. And the ball of light approached Wukong. Immediately afterwards, Raditz's figure suddenly disappeared into the air, red flames flashed behind Piccolo, and a hand knife slashed at the back of Piccolo's neck. Piccolo froze and fell to the bottom. At this moment, Wukong could barely dissipate the power of the shining shock wave and his hands were numb. The state of Kaiwenquin was still there, but his physical strength was greatly exhausted. Raditz rushed forward, attacking him continuously so that Wukong could only barely defend. In less than 10 rounds, Sun Wukong's body was already covered with scars, and it was almost as if he was going to be beaten through with a punch, and the energy was coming out from behind through his body. The unwilling Piccolo launched an attack again, with continuous missile impacts. Raditz dodged at full speed without leaving an afterimage and appeared in front of Piccolo in an instant and kicked him away with a sideways kick. And those missiles were all caught by Monkey King. Suddenly, a wave of uneasiness emerged and Raditz felt creepy. Looking up, Tianjin Fan's Qigong cannon was ready. On the side, a round Qigong bomb also stared at him. It was Yamcha's Qigong bomb. How can I let you succeed? Raditz preempted the attack, quickly opened his arms, and sent out an invisible air wave. Just relying on his strong qi, he directly bounced the two of them away. The Qigong cannon shot sideways and flew into the yellow sea of clouds, while the Qigong bomb was out of control and flew to nowhere. The two gritted their teeth in pain and went to see Raditz again, but there was nowhere to be seen. Here it is. The cold voice gave them a chill in their hearts. Boom! Boom! Several times in succession, Tianjin Fan and Yamcha were knocked down to the ground, and the stubborn Piccolo charged again and was kicked over again. Klin and Jaya-Ozi raised their hands to admit defeat, and Wukong barely fought for a few rounds and was blasted into the field of Kaiwenxing again. At this point, Raditz had won the victory, and his breathing became short of breath, but there was still a smile on his face. The King of the World looked dull, looking at the devastated star of the King of the World. His lips trembled. His beloved car fell to the side with only 4 wheels left and lonely steering wheels scattered on the driveway. If King Kai could swear, he would definitely say 3 words at this moment. After the last battle, Raditz's strength was finally recognized by everyone. Even Piccolo kept a low profile, worked harder in training, and became stricter when teaching Sun Wuhan. When he is free, he often finds Wukong to do hard work in dealing with Kaiwenquin. Others also deeply realized their own shortcomings and took it more seriously. Time passed quietly like this, immersed in their cultivation. They didn't realize that it was almost time to face the Saiyans until the King of the Realm reminded them. Excuse me, Lord Kai, how long will it take for them to arrive? Well, it will be about a month later, a little later than I expected. King Kai said, the reason is that their spaceship encountered a star explosion in the universe which affected the trajectory. Hearing this, Wukong put on a puzzled expression. Isn't there still a month to practice? The King of the Realm wiped his sweat. Actually, you have already surpassed me and I have nothing to teach you. You can still practice when you return to Earth. He put his hands behind his back, turned around and nodded slightly, completely like a master. But under his sunglasses, there was deep fear in his eyes. Don't stay any longer. Among other things, this planet has been refurbished countless times before and after. In short, it has been broken every time and it is worse every time. After the car was scrapped, he never drove again, and even his hobby of counting grass was brutally deprived, so he could only play with Babris every day. The most unbearable thing is that his warehouse is about to be emptied. Everyone was very hungry after practicing, and he ate enough food for several days, especially Raditz and son Wukong, who ate 10 or even dozens of times the amount of others. At the beginning, he was just being polite, but he didn't expect everyone to take it for granted, boasting about the king of the realm while eating mercilessly. After this year, there is not much food left that he has stored for a long time, and it is definitely not enough to last another month. The king of the world has made up his mind that they must not be allowed to stay. But on Earth, Wukong frowned and said. Before halfway through speaking, the king of the realm yelled loudly, "I will go back as soon as I say it." "Ah, I got it, got it." Wukong waved his hands again and again and took 2 steps back. Raditz stepped forward and grabbed Wukong. "Master Kai is right, we should return to Earth. Get used to the environment in advance and relax. The practice these days has caused each of them to suffer too much, and their bodies have reached their limit, and they will not improve much if they practice for another month. It's better to go back and have a good rest and take care of your body." There was some deviation between time and what he knew, which made him a little concerned. Originally, the Saiyans were supposed to arrive a month earlier, but now it took almost exactly 1 year. Is such a change really a coincidence, or has everything started to look different? Raditz clenched his fists tightly, feeling a little uneasy. Since Raditz also said so, why not go back? Yamcha echoed. We have become much stronger now, and Master Wushin will be surprised when he sees it. Kellen said with a smile. So is Gohan, as expected of Goku's son, and he has Piccolo's teaching. Gohan lowered his head shyly. Piccolo glanced coldly. It's not enough. After that he snorted again. Although he was very strict, there was an inexplicable concern in his eyes. These two are indeed the best master-student combination. Raditz saw it and chuckled inwardly. He led the crowd to bid farewell to the King of the World and jumped from the star of the King of the World to the top of the Snake Road. The King of Kai waved goodbye to everyone while wiping his sweat with a handkerchief in relief. Wukong still looked reluctant to let go, so scared that the King of the World quickly waved his hands. "I will notify the gods on the earth to pick you up as long as you walk to the end along the Snake Road." "No." Raditz responded loudly, waved to King Kai and rushed out. Without the 10 times the gravity of Kaiwangsing, he felt extremely relaxed, as if floating in the clouds, blending with the passing wind around him. "Let's all have a competition to see who is the fastest." Wukong followed Raditz closely, and the air around him was surging, pulling out a long light and shadow. "Too cunning. I won't lose." Everyone's fighting spirit was aroused, and at the same time, a strong burst of energy burst out and they flew out of sight in the blink of an eye. Several streams of air flowed across the air, like meteors flying across the boundless underworld. A few hours later, Raditz was the first to appear at the Snake Crossing, even though he sweated a lot. The distance of 1,000,000 kilometers is not a joke. His speed is already very remarkable. After a while, Monkey King appeared in sight and Piccolo followed closely behind him, although there was always a certain distance that he couldn't get past. Finally, they reached the Snake Crossing with their front and rear feet. Kellen, Tianjin Fan, and Yamuti followed, and the dumplings arrived half an hour later together with Gohan. Sun Wuhan's chi was already very strong, but he didn't use it well enough, and when he was flying at full speed he was naturally inferior. He glanced at Piccolo timidly, and as expected, he received a cold stare. "You are the ones who came back from Lord Kai, right?" Suddenly, a government official in a shirt and glasses appeared in front of everyone holding a notebook. His face was blue and he had 2 horns on his head. Other than that, he was no different from ordinary humans. "This person looks so strange." Wukong came over and muttered curiously. He is a staff member of the underworld, so it must be like this, Raditz explained in a low voice. I will take you to meet the gods of the earth. The king of the world has arranged for Lord Yama to arrange it. I will guide you, please get on the bus. The staff of the underworld took them to the extended version of the special car for the underworld and drove directly to the hall of King Hades. Sure enough, the gods were already waiting here and greeted them as soon as they appeared. Between the underworld and the planet in charge, the gods have the ability to travel at will. Everyone grabbed a part of the other person's body and then grabbed the god. In just a moment, everyone was transferred to the heaven. Came back. Suddenly I feel so relaxed, Kellen shouted cheerfully. He hadn't had time to feel the lightness of his body when he was galloping on the snake road just now. After returning to the earth, he realized that he seemed to have no weight and his whole body was flexible, several times. Raditz looked at the sky, looking forward to Vegeta's arrival. Come on, let me show you the results of cultivation and how powerful these earthlings are. Whether 1 month is long or short, for Raditz, enjoying a period of life on Earth is just right. These days, he has become familiar with life on Earth. Looking up, just the right amount of sunlight has dyed the Earth with a layer of splendor. People meet by chance under the blue sky and the white clouds above the head float leisurely. Rows upon rows of high-rise buildings and magnificent air tunnels pass through the city, embellishing the city with style. There were a lot of vehicles on the wide road. Raditz supported the car door with one hand and the steering wheel with the other and drove slowly on the bustling street. Why is the car in front still not moving? Wukong bent his fingers and tapped his arms impatiently. Haha, there is something called the morning rush hour in big cities. No matter the latest flying car or the ordinary car in front, you have to obediently get stuck here. Raditz sat in the driver's seat and replied, not moving much. Brake. Kellen and Yamcha, who were sitting in the back, also laughed. Haha, Wukong doesn't have a driver's license yet, so he must have not been on the street for a long time. Kellen, you can also drive. Monkey King knew that Yamcha was an old driver, but he didn't expect Kellen to be laughing too. Hey, I learned it after the #1 martial arts association in the world. Kellen laughed triumphantly and took out his driver's license. Look, Wukong, I didn't expect that. Where you want to go, can't you just fly it? Raditz gave Wukong a look of disgust when he heard that. It's fun to drive, besides it's always flying around and the impact is very bad. Monkey King scratched his head, half understanding and half understanding. By the way, Gohan really can't come out to play. Oh, Kiki won't let me and I can't help it. Gohan hasn't had the chance to go out for activities recently, has he? Kellen could imagine the scene, he laughed. Raditz couldn't help laughing too. Since he came back, he has been living in Wukong's house. The first time he saw Wukong's brother, Kiki was very surprised and specially made a big meal for him that day. He and Wukong go out to practice for 8 hours a day and then do some farm work and odd jobs. On weekdays, Wukong, who's devoted to cultivation, actually works hard, all thanks to Raditz, causing Kiki to praise Raditz greatly, and keeps praising Wukong for having a good brother. But Gohan was miserable because he missed a year's course and was forced by Kiki to do a pile of practice questions that was higher than the table. Even Raditz was terrified when he saw that amount, and no one in the whole family dared to argue with Kiki once she showed her aura. Depending on the situation, something happened on this road. Why don't we fly? Yamcha leaned against the door board and yawned. At 7 o'clock in the morning, after they finished their breakfast, Raditz drove Bulma's newly bought flying sports car into the busiest business district in Western Capital, and then couldn't get out of the car. Raditz shrugged, it can't be helped. Several people got out of the car one after another and put the car into the capsule under the watchful eyes of everyone. People looked around boredly and were very puzzled when they saw the actions of Raditz and others. In the next second, everyone's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets and they were stunned in surprise. They saw 4 people fly directly into the sky. I'm not dreaming, am I? I don't know either. Hey, did you see that? They can fly. Damn, why didn't you take a picture? After a brief silence, a heated discussion erupted from the crowd, and many people still looked dazed, rubbing their eyes and pinching their thighs, thinking they were daydreaming. The 4 of them flew unimpeded in the air, and they moved forward gracefully. The traffic underneath was still congested. There were many vehicles falling sideways at the intersection, and the police were yelling and gunshots continued. On the other side is the bank. Behind a modified armored car at the door, several people raised machine guns and fired at the police. Yep, rob a bank, no wonder the traffic is stuck. According to the usual practice, it is time for the Sun family to show off their strength, RADITS thought so. Sure enough, Wukong jumped down and Kellen and Yamcha immediately followed. RADITS shook his head and fell vertically. When the four of them landed on the ground, Wukong yelled stop. And then walked into the hail of bullets. What do these idiots want to do? Are you looking for death? Ha 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 ha, the gangster laughed wildly. The police immediately ceased fire for fear of accidentally injuring innocent people. But the gangster laughed more and more ferociously as if he saw his prey and shot non-stop. HMPH, RADITS smiled contemptuously and reached out to take it casually. More than a dozen bullets were grasped in one hand in an instant, and the gunpowder was invisible. Not to be outdone, Wukong and the others caught the bandits' bullet one after another, let go of their hands, and the bullet landed dang dang dang. What they think is very common makes others dumbfounded who can catch bullets in ordinary people. The gangsters were dumbfounded. Continue, the boss shouted angrily. The gangsters continued to shoot wildly, wanting to shoot all the bullets like crazy. The four of them leisurely picked up the bullets and approached slowly like they were taking a walk. Both Yamcha and Kellen wore casual clothes with one hand in the bag, making them look more relaxed. The corners of the clothes fluttered slightly, which was so coquettish that the beautiful girl who was watching on the sidelines exclaimed. The police were frightened by their guns and looked at the four in disbelief. The other people also murmured, their expressions as exaggerated as they wanted. At this time, the leader of the gangster got into the car, picked up the bazooka and aimed at RADITS. Haha, I still have this weapon, go to hell. Seeing that the boss used the bazooka, all the gangsters became proud one after another, and once again felt that they had the upper hand. Even if the armored vehicles can penetrate you, I don't believe they can't penetrate you. RADITS hooked his fingers at them and sneered disdainfully. The boss was very angry. After all, he is also the eldest brother of a gangster, so it's okay to be provoked like this. He blasted a rocket in a rage, roaring ferociously. In an instant, RADITS's eyes lit up and an astonishing aura erupted. White arrogance enveloped his body, ripples continuously spread in all directions, and the energy surged like a tide. Before the rocket touched RADITS, it had already been disintegrated and exploded in the surging energy. Seeing the situation, Wukong immediately rushed forward, knocked down the gangster with 3 punches and 2 feet, and came to the side of the car and knocked the car door flying with 1 punch. The boss looked east and west, his nose dripped down, his Adam's apple moved, and he raised his hand tremblingly. This is so inhuman. The boss quickly got out of the car and shouted, "Police, I want to surrender, don't let them hit me, I surrender. Police! Let's go." Regardless of the shouts of the police and the people behind them, the four left quickly. Since then, there have been legends of 4 unsung heroes in Zidu. RADITS went to the mall to choose some Earth costumes to avoid the embarrassment of going out in combat suits. In addition, I also helped Wukong choose a dress, bought a gift for Kiki, and Kellen and Yamcha also bought some things. Everyone chatted hilariously, and RADITS made endless jokes which made several people laugh, almost as if they had forgotten the powerful enemy they were about to meet. At this time, Bulma was sleeping soundly on the test bench at home. RADITS asked her to improve the upper limit and accuracy of the measurement a month ago, and it is almost completed now. RADITS's detector was placed sideways, and a number 20,000 flashed on the screen. The author speaks for the first time, thank you for your collection and votes. On a sunny weekend, the streets are crowded with cars and pedestrians. The air conditioning in the shopping mall is fully turned on, and many people shuttle through it, enjoying the coolness while shopping for goods, and some people are watching relaxed or passionate screen stories in the movie theater. Just when people are celebrating the weekend as usual. Suddenly, 2 meteorite-like things fell from the sky, smashed through the dome of the large shopping mall and fell straight to the ground. The ground shook violently, the surrounding ground collapsed, and a deep pit was sunk. The huge buildings collapsed, and countless people fled screaming in a mess. Gray smoke floated obliquely towards the sky, bursts of flames and continuous explosions, affecting other buildings and roads around. Just when people were at a loss and fled in a hurry, two people slowly walked out from the smoke. They were dressed in fancy clothes, one with a bald head and a very strong body and the other with a petite figure but an arrogant face. The two walked through the fire and ruins without any sense of panic, but rather creepy. Suddenly, a woman screamed, igniting an atmosphere of panic. Alien, alien. Run. For a moment, everyone felt incomparably terrified. Some people ran away desperately and some people's legs were weak. HMPH, what an ignorant human being. Nappa looked around and felt very disdainful when he saw the panicked crowd say hello to them. Then he raised his hand, stretched out two fingers and grinned a very arrogant smile. Drink. In an instant, a powerful force surged up, the ground exploded and the light reached the sky. 100 miles around turned into a barren ruins. No matter whether people, animals or buildings were wiped out, there was no residue left and scorched smoke was everywhere. Ha ha ha, isn't my greeting not strong enough? Naba laughed arrogantly, looking at the empty ruins with complacency. Vegeta covered the dust. It's a boring move, don't forget the purpose of our coming to Earth. He squinted at Nappa. If there were Dragon Balls in this area just now, our wish of immortality would come to naught, you fool. Ah, I'm really sorry, I was excited just now and I didn't notice. Nappa immediately came to his senses, knowing that he almost got into trouble. His face instantly became very panicked. If Vegeta gets angry, he's screwed. Fortunately, Vegeta just reprimanded him a little bit. Although his voice was harsh, there was not much anger in his words. I'm here to find the most powerful guy on this planet. He should be the strongest person who can kill RADITS, Nappa said and pressed the detector. Suddenly, a series of signals sounded beep beep, beep beep. Signal responses come one after another, all in one place. It's not right, there are many masters on this planet, and all of them have more than 1,000 fighting strength. HMPH, it's only 1,000. Could it still threaten us? It's easy to deal with them all together, just kill them all so I don't have to look for them one by one, Vegeta sneered with disdain. Walk. Vegeta gave an order and quickly approached the signal source with Nappa. At the same time, the warriors of the Earth have gathered together, and they also feel the powerful chi of the Saiyans approaching them. The king of the world had notified them of the time in advance, so they took the lead. In order to avoid casualties, they deliberately chose the location of the battle in the barren mountains, a large area of wasteland and isolated mountains, and there were few birds and animals nearby. The wind blows the dust and blows past everyone, and everyone is looking firmly into the distance, standing upright. Raditz stood at the front of the crowd with a serious face. Coming. The two Saiyans are really strong and you can feel their anger from here. Although Kellen was surprised, he didn't panic at all because Raditz and Goku in front of him were also Saiyans and these two are stronger. Tianjin fan, will you be alright? Jaya Ozi, if you are in danger later, you run away first. You have the lowest combat power here, don't fight recklessly. Instead, Tianjin fan showed an expectant expression. I will be able to fight against them soon, I am really looking forward to it. Ah, that's amazing, Gohan's face showed a hint of fear. Excellent, Piccolo showed a disdainful angle, full of confidence. In the last month he still practiced extremely hard and fought Sun Wukong's Juanquan many times. Having experienced many battles, he was much stronger than a month ago. From his point of view, the two Saiyans don't know the Kaiwenquan, so they may not be his opponents. He was wearing that extremely coquettish cloak, standing beside Monkey King as calm as a mountain. Gohan, don't be afraid, we have grown too much this year, you also have the power to fight, Piccolo said, seeing the sweaty son Gohan from the corner of his eye. Yes, Uncle Piccolo. After Piccolo's encouragement, he became a little braver. Sun Wuhan has always been trained by Piccolo. First, Sun Wukong is not good at teaching, and secondly, it is difficult to be as ruthless as Piccolo when facing his own son. On the contrary, Piccolo can do it well and he teaches very seriously. The current Sun Wuhan may not be inferior to Kellen in terms of combat power. It's just that he lacks experience and hasn't really experienced the battle of life and death, so his face is too tense. Wukong deliberately asked him to stand behind him to give him some support. Did you bring Xiandu? Raditz confirmed to Monkey King. Bring it, but Kalen Immortal said that there are only 3 fairy beans. Sun Wukong pointed to the small bag on his waist. By the way, it seems that Yaki Liubai is coming too, but why haven't I seen anyone yet? Don't count on him anymore, he will come out at the critical moment. By the way, if they are, as you said, with 18,000 combat power, they will not be your opponent at all, brother, and the fairy beans will be useless at all, Wukong said with a smile. Hope so. Raditz said casually, and the sense of uneasiness on Kaiwang came to his mind again. He obviously already has a combat power of 20,000, plus the Kaioken and the secret vitality bomb. It is enough to deal with Vegeta, but the more he thinks about it, the more uneasy he feels and his heart panics. The timeline has quietly changed. Is it because of this? What is wrong? Raditz thought hard but couldn't think of an answer. He looked at the sky worriedly. He always felt that there was a power hidden somewhere, but he had no clue. While he was thinking, Tianjin Fan yelled and saw a figure in the distance. Everyone looked at it suddenly, and there were indeed 2 white flames rushing towards them with a menacing aura. Vegeta and Nappa, you're finally here. Huh, isn't that Raditz? Isn't he dead? Could it be that he has been resurrected? Nappa was very surprised when he saw Raditz standing in front of the crowd. They got the news of Raditz's death from the communicator and also knew the existence of Dragon Ball, so they rushed to the Earth. But everything in front of him was weird. Raditz was alive and seemed to be leading a group of Earthlings behind him. This kid, Vegeta gritted his teeth angrily and suddenly accelerated his landing. Boom! The 2 fell to the ground suddenly, and the detector sounded. Their combat uniforms are exactly the same as Raditz's, and they are menacing, and the ferocious aura emanating from their bodies is chilling. Are you waiting for us? Vegeta crossed his hands with a look of contempt, and you Raditz, you better explain to me what's going on. His face was ugly and he was on the verge of breaking out. If Raditz is not dead, it can only mean that he was deceived. How dare a low-level soldier deceive him? Court death. A murderous aura quietly permeated the air, and everyone felt an icy chill and their scalps were numb. Before doing it differently, Raditz would definitely be trembling with fright and his legs and feet would be weak. But now Raditz walked forward with a smile on his face instead. Vegeta, I have never died. I said that, I just want to invite you to come to Earth, let's have a good talk. Ha 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 ha. Vegeta laughed out loud, mixed with doubts, disdain, ridicule and anger. You colluded with the people on Earth to lie to me and you have betrayed the Saiyans. I will kill you and then wipe out the entire Earth humans above. Yeah, the Earth is originally in Frieza's plan. You destroy the Earth for him and then, where is the next one? Be Frieza's lackey for the rest of your life. Raditz asked back in a more mocking tone. This sentence was like a thorn in Vegeta's heart. Shut up. It seems that you don't want to go on like this, so why don't you resist? My younger brother on Earth, Kakarot, is also called Monkey King and he has a group of outstanding partners around him. If we add the 3 of us to join forces, we can fight Frieza is definitely possible. Don't laugh so hard, you guys dare to join hands with Frieza to deal with Frieza. Humph, I think you are all idiots. Vegeta's screen clearly reflected Raditz's combat power, 1800. Naba also echoed the situation. The combat power of 1800 is indeed stronger than before, but that kind of combat power is really useless. The detectors are sometimes inaccurate. Monkey King cut off Nappa's voice and interjected. Facing 2 Saiyans, his fighting passion had already been ignited, especially Vegeta, which gave him the urge to fight. It is very difficult to convince the 2 at the moment. The worst plan is a big battle between the 2 sides, which is exactly what Wukong wishes for. Are you Kakarot? My name is Monkey King. Boring, let me ask you, since Raditz is not dead, so the so-called Dragon Balls are also fake. Vegeta still cared about Dragon Balls. No, Dragon Balls are real and can grant any wish. Hearing this, Vegeta showed a satisfied smile, and this trip to the Earth was not in vain. He really hated Frieza and wanted to deal with Frieza, but Raditz's proposal sounded impossible to him. How strong can a few Earthlings be, and how strong can 3 or 4 of them add up to? Jinyu may not be able to fight, let alone Frieza. So he rejected RADITS, still hoping that Dragon Ball would give him eternal life. Clearly explain the Dragon Ball matter and I can consider sparing your lives. Vegeta stretched out a hand and raised his chin arrogantly. It looks like you're not going to follow my advice, so I'll just have to show you how strong we are. As Raditz said, he walked back slowly and reached the far left of the crowd. Everyone stood staggered and looked at Vegeta. Naba, did you hear that Raditz wants to show us how powerful he is? Ha ha ha, let's see their fighting power. How dare you speak wild words at a little over 1,000, have you forgotten my horror? Idiot, I can kill you both together, Nappa sneered. Don't be so anxious. Vegeta smiled, you still have the seeds of cultivating people, let them try. After hearing this, Nappa laughed and took out a small bottle from his waist which contained several seeds. He poured out the seeds and planted them in the soil. After a while, several ugly monsters emerged from the ground. Their heads were like Chinese cabbage, their limbs were slender, and their whole bodies were green. Then, what is that? It's disgusting. Kellen's expression changed suddenly when he saw the cultivator emerging from the ground. Looks like an alien creature. Piccolo said with a cold face, it's all trash. Trash, what a big tone. Hearing Piccolo's words, Nappa looked over and was startled. Huh, you're from Namek. Namek, the others were also shocked when they knew Piccolo's hometown for the first time. But because he is a cosmic being, it makes sense that he is so powerful. No wonder, I heard that the Namekians have some magical powers. It seems that you are the one who made the Dragon Balls. By the way, you are also the one who cooperated with Raditz in the play. I recognize your voice. Naba grinned, his face ferocious. Sound, everyone was taken aback for a moment and immediately realized that Raditz said that the detector can be used as a communication device. Hurry up if you want to fight. Piccolo spat disdainfully, put on a fighting posture and looked at Nappa coldly. You seem to have more people than cultivators, so you can't be one-on-one, Vegeta said with great interest as if it was a pity for this. You don't need one-on-one, just me alone. Piccolo, let me do it, Wukong said confidently. Hey, you don't need to take action. Raditz stopped Wukong, just let Gohan and the others deal with the cultivators and it will be very easy, trust their strength. Then, okay, Sun Wukong thought for a while, put his hands on his hips and stepped aside. Piccolo thought he was on the same level as Wukong, and seeing that Wukong didn't make a move, he put away his posture, folded his hands and stood coldly. Okay, since that's the case, I'll go first. Yamcha clenched his fists and walked to the front with a smile. He was dressed in a turtle fairy uniform and he walked slowly and calmly. And a number jumped on Naba's detector, 1080. This number was not as high as that of the cultivator, and Nappa couldn't help being overjoyed with a gloating smile on his face. In his opinion, the cultivator can directly kill Yamcha. Don't be careless, attack with all your strength, Vegeta gave the order coldly. The cultivator stood still, uttered a scream and rushed towards Yamcha. Its claws are very sharp, 10 centimeters long, and they are very fast. With just one step it has already jumped tens of meters. Seeing that it was approaching Yamcha, it waved its sharp claws and its ear-piercing cry became even sharper. Call out. There was a rapid sweeping sound, and the sharp claws tore through the air. The cultivator was stunned suddenly, it split the air expecting to tear the enemy apart, but the Yamcha in front of him disappeared in an instant. At this moment, a figure suddenly flashed behind him, kicked it in the head with a flying kick. This kick contained enormous power, causing the cultivator to turn around in the air for 3 weeks, flew out and landed, and still slid on the ground for more than 10 meters before stopping. Trash, Vegeta was furious, stretched out 2 fingers and directly smashed the cultivator into pieces with a bang. Nappa looked at his forehead and couldn't help but sweat a little. I said to attack with all my strength, don't be careless. Vegeta shouted, pointing to another cultivator, you go to the next game, don't lose again. The cultivator pointed out by him was trembling and walked forward in great fear. Yamcha proudly made a V and clapped hands with Kellen. These monsters are not our opponents at all. Really? Then I will defeat it faster than you. Haha, let's try it. Okay, I'm on. Kellen jumped forward and put on a stance. The cultivator and Kellen met each other's eyes, and there was a gleam of light in their eyes at the same time. Whoosh! The two disappeared together before everyone's eyes. Ah, they're gone, Gohan was shocked. You feel their chi carefully, how did I teach you that you can't see it? Piccolo reprimanded, dissatisfied. Gohan immediately felt ashamed, tried to sense the breath that was moving at high speed and was suddenly overjoyed. I saw it. As soon as the words fell, the cultivator was thrown to the ground and fell limply, unable to stand up again. Trash, Vegeta shot again and dealt with the dying cultivator. This guy's combat power has risen to more than 2,000 in just a moment. Vegeta looked at Raditz with needle-like eyes. He noticed that the combat power of the two Earthlings just now could change drastically, and he suddenly began to doubt Raditz. 1800 is probably not the real strength of Raditz. If he dares to challenge him, does Raditz really have the strength to match his own? Vegeta was puzzled and assigned the next one to play, wanting to observe again. This time it was Tianjin Fan's turn to play. The cultivator had already lost 2 games in a row and his morale plummeted. Seeing Tianjin Fan, he actually felt a little scared. Go, Vegeta urged. The cultivator was even more afraid of Vegeta, so he could only rush forward with a sullen head, bursting out with all his strength and flying with his claws. Tianjin Fan didn't dodge or dodge, he still stood there. When the sharp claw hit it, the cultivator was overjoyed, but then he felt something was wrong. His claw fell through the air. The Tianjin rice in front of him was just an afterimage. Taking 2 steps back, it found that there were more than a dozen Tianjin Fans around, all of which were afterimages caused by high-speed movement. It can't tell which one is the real body, it just feels dazzled and sweats profusely. No problem, the combat power is 1150, but the cultivator has 1200, how could it be? Naba was anxious, he pressed the detector hard, but the combat power of Tianjin Rice displayed on the screen was always 1150. It's almost 50 points of combat power, but it can play the cultivator so far. Naba, don't trust the data from the detectors, they may be able to change their combat power as they please. Vegeta was finally convinced of his judgment, and his face froze. In the arena, Tianjin Fan suddenly launched an attack and a dozen afterimages instantly turned into one. The heavy fist hit the cultivator's abdomen, knocking him into the air, and a large part of his abdomen was sunken. I won again. It's so easy. Tianjin Fan turned around and raised his arm, giving his companion a thumbs up. Behind him, the cultivator hit the ground with a bang. So who's next, Dumpling or Gohan? Vegeta and Nappa watched a few people celebrating and cheering but completely ignored the two of them, feeling inexplicably humiliated. Obviously they are the ones who are going to play with everyone, but now they are deciding the order of appearance like the other party playing a game. After finally invading the Earth once, please show some respect, please. But the Earth warriors still gathered together, cheering up Gohan, and didn't care about the Saiyan's expression at all. Cultivating people, you look at me, I look at you, and look at each other blankly. Hurry up and send the next one, Vegeta couldn't help shouting. Krillin laughed loudly, coupled with other people's interference. Vegeta's words were quickly drowned in the noise and people still ignored him. Only Raditz cast a pitiful look and the corner of Vegeta's mouth twitched slightly as if his patience had reached its limit. Finally, Gohan appeared, his short body rolled a few times in the air and landed firmly. The cultivators knew that the opponent had appeared and launched an attack without thinking. They could also see that this time the opponent was obviously less powerful than the previous few times. Sun Wuhan, who has experienced many simulated battles, felt great pressure for the first time in an actual battle. The instinct of the Kostian inspired his fighting spirit. Facing the cultivator, Sun Wuhan plucked up his courage and calmed down his heart. Feel the breaths, feel the breath. He kept running back in his mind the techniques Piccolo had taught him. Suddenly, with a flash of inspiration, he caught the cultivation man's action. It hits from the front. Gohan was overjoyed. A white light full of energy bloomed from his hand and launched more than a dozen qigong waves in a row, drawing beautiful arcs from different angles, turning into a white rainbow. Where the light shines, there is a loud noise that shakes the wilderness, and it hits the cultivator. In an instant, the number of the detector changed suddenly, and this time Nappa also noticed the jumping number. His face was livid. 2800. A furry boy actually has such a high combat effectiveness. The cultivator braved the Qigong wave and continued to charge forward. The smoke was billowing and his body was exposed in the flying dust. However, under the bombardment of energy, it has turned into a white bone. It exhausted its last strength to rush out of the smoke and dust, and it only took a few steps before falling apart. Could he be Kakarot's child? Cultivator, keep going. Vegeta was angry, and he suddenly had a sense of foreboding. Can't play anymore, has to make a quick fix. Nappa, get rid of him. Nappa, get rid of him. This shout was like thunder, and Sun Wukong lost his mind for a while. Everyone was also shocked for a moment. They didn't expect Vegeta to go back on his word and suddenly launched an attack at the end of the one-on-one duel. And Nappa had already been gearing up for a long time and immediately rushed away when he heard the order. Son Gohan took a few steps back in fear. The oncoming cultivator was nothing but Nappa, who followed closely, had a strong body like a hill, full of brutal strength, and it made people feel guilty just looking at it. Nappa's impact was all due to his body like a copper wall and an iron wall. His powerful momentum raised smoke and dust all over the sky, and the coercion shook Gohan's clothes. The air made a non-stop noise and the ground trembled. The powerful chi crushed it, like a giant elephant galloping to the ground, bursting out with endless tyranny. With a thunderous punch, it unleashes the power of bursting mountains. Sun Wukong really couldn't keep up with Nappa's speed this time, so he had to block with his hands and hold on with all his strength. But Nappa is determined to win, and seeing Sun Wukong resisting, he is even more excited. Snapped! There was only a faint sound from the powerful punch, and the strong breath dissipated in an instant, and it was resolved without a sound. Nappa was stunned. His fist was actually caught by one hand, and it was clenched so tight that he couldn't even pull it away. Sun Wukong. Wukong's figure remained motionless in the oncoming wind, holding Nappa's fist with one hand, his expression calm. Beep beep, Vegeta and Nappa's detector jumped out an astonishing number, 5,000. How is it possible for a low-level fighter? Nappa exclaimed. He broke out in a cold sweat unconsciously, and his heart skipped a beat because he didn't see Monkey King appearing just now. That speed was faster than his limit. According to this, 5,000 should be his minimum value, Kakarot. Vegeta's eyes were deep, and the eyes he looked at Monkey King changed again and again. Suddenly he turned his head and looked at Lara on the other side, Tizzy and RADITS. He had a hunch that RADITS should be stronger. Looking back at the battle situation, I saw that Nappa and Monkey King were still confronting each other. Sun Wukong turned half his head. Wuhan, you have done a good job, let's leave it to Dad. After finishing speaking, he swiped and swiped with his other hand and blasted 2 Qigong bombs, directly killing the cultivator. It exploded, leaving only one breath. At this time, Nappa gritted his teeth and shook his feet, and suddenly threw out a sharp fist under the wrapping of the white air pattern, and instantly blasted out a sharp light. Wukong opened his palm again to meet the bursting punch. The two powerful energies collided together, making a loud bang, blasting the ground into a huge, deep pit. Thump thump. The others were horrified and retreated again and again. Only RADITS remained motionless, watching the two fight, full of confidence in Monkey King. Kakarot, you dare to fight against me? Nappa shouted angrily, his veins bursting. Why don't you dare? You are not my opponent, Wukong said honestly. What did you say? Nappa was so angry that he almost vomited blood. His face was flushed, and his beard, full of personality, couldn't stop trembling. With a little more strength in his punches, he is bound to overwhelm Wukong. Even though Nappa's muscles were strong, as hard as iron, no amount of strength could shake Sun Wukong. Seeing that Nappa was gnashing his teeth, Wukong seemed to have reached the limit, so he simply let go and fell backwards. The sudden change made Nappa unable to react for a while and fell forward with inertia, while Wukong put his hands on the ground and kicked his legs towards the sky. The huge force on the feet shattered the breastplate of the battle suit, and the armor on the back was also shattered. Nappa was fired like a cannonball, swooshing into the sky, drooling, and his face was deformed in pain. Wukong exploded with vigor, quickly caught up with Nappa, dodged behind him and slammed the hammer, knocking him to the ground. The ground exploded with a bang, clods of soil splashed, and a huge pit with a diameter of 100 meters was cracked around him with a diameter of 100 meters. Nappa lay face down in the pit, his body covered in ashes, and the back of his battle suit was torn open, making it unusable. "Bastard," he yelled angrily, jumped out of the deep pit, smashed his fists to the ground, and blasted out terrifying power. The ground collapsed and countless broken rocks exploded upwards. The rumbling sound shook the mountains and forests, and the spreading waves could crush the rocks. The swirling wind destroyed the blades of grass near and far, and the ground sank a little more. Sun Wukong looked at the embarrassed Naba without any fear. "It's so strong, as expected of a Saiyan, you have it." Although Nappa's combat power was not as good as his, he did not take it lightly, and his expression was still cautious. After all, Wukong launched an attack again, spanning tens of meters, and punched in the air. The air waves released from the venting of the fist force were like turbulent waves hitting the shore, rushing wantonly, and went straight to Nappa. "Inferior fighters, don't be too happy." Nappa did not dodge or dodge, stretched his muscles, trying to resist the blow. With both feet on the ground and awe-inspiring eyes, he erupted with domineering arrogance, and his fierce posture was like a wild beast. Boom! Along with the roar, a huge impact suddenly hit Nappa. The loud noise that erupted was deafening, and Sun Wukong felt a tingling in his fist, and the strength rebounded. Nappa's body blocked his punch, even broke through his strength and rushed straight at him. Monkey King was slightly surprised. "Could it not be your full strength just now?" Nappa didn't answer, just raised his hand to fight, fighting with Wukong, the two limbs intertwined, back and forth, hundreds of shadows waving in midair, beating dazzledly. Although Nappa's offensive was heavy and fierce, Wukong's defense was like a huge impenetrable wall, blocking Nappa's advance, counterattacking with crushing power, and advancing quickly. At the beginning, the balance of power created by relying on anger was gradually broken. Nappa had already been punched several times, his face was smeared, his arms were sore, and he could only hold on reluctantly. The dissipated power caused layers of clouds to rise, and the air was filled with the sound of sharp tearing eddies. "It's amazing," Kellen looked at the sky, almost dumbfounded. "That Saiyan seems to be nothing special." "No, that guy is very strong, but Sun Wukong is much stronger," Piccolo made a conclusion. Compared with their optimistic attitude, Vegeta was already impatient. He beat his arms, gritted his teeth, and wrinkled the word Chuan between his brows. He wished he could get rid of Sun Wukong by himself. Looking at the disappointing Nappa, anger rose in his heart. Boom! When Vegeta was furious, Nappa was kicked to the ground. Only the lower half of his chest was left in his battle suit. His whole body was covered with scars, the bloodshot corners of his mouth extended to his chin, and even two of his teeth were knocked out. It was the first time for him to be so embarrassed. And it was against an inferior fighter. He can't stand it. Nappa wiped the blood stains from the corner of his mouth, looked at Monkey King viciously, and gasped violently. He couldn't believe all of this. How could an inferior fighter fight against a fighter from a famous family like him, and even beat him? Absolutely a mistake. "Impossible, Kakarot, I can defeat you," Nappa yelled frantically. Suddenly there was no sound from his open mouth, and a pale beam of light spewed out. The speed of the sudden energy wave was astonishing, and the moment it spewed out, Monkey King was startled. But Wukong reacted quickly, counterattacking almost instinctively. The Kamei Qigong was launched at the very moment, and the light blue brilliance instantly countered the white light, submerging Nappa's body like a small hill. So dangerous. He can actually fire a cannon from his mouth just like Piccolo. Wukong couldn't help complaining while wiping his sweat. Piccolo moved his ears and turned sideways. HMPH, boring. The light faded, and Nappa was left with only a pair of super-quality underwear. He was stunned and bruised and stood frozen in midair. At this moment, his mind was blank and he was completely at a loss. Lost, totally lost. The self-esteem of being a famous Saiyan family has been crushed over and over again, and the anger has long been vented, but it is useless. He stared blankly at Monkey King, feeling a fear of facing death. "Nappa, you are not his opponent, come back." At the critical moment, Vegeta gave instructions. He really couldn't stand it anymore, so he could only recall Nappa, otherwise relying on Monkey King's strength. He might kill Nappa directly. For a moment just now, he saw that Monkey King's combat power had risen directly from 5,000 to 10,000. No matter how explosive Nappa was, the combat power would be around 6,000 at most, which was too far behind Monkey King. Nappa's death is already the result of Sun Wukong's forced release of water. He must take action himself to solve this farce. Nappa received Vegeta's instructions and immediately landed obediently, no longer entangled. In fact, he no longer has the will to fight, and he dare not fight Monkey King any longer. But his eyes caught on to Sun Wuhan and the others, and a cunning thought came to him again. Can't beat you, can't beat your son. Nappa secretly glanced at Monkey King, seeing that Wukong didn't care about him. He sneered and rushed towards Monkey King. The punch he was bound to receive, combined strength and anger, slammed down suddenly. Boom! Come fast, retreat even faster. Nappa flew upside down and fell at Vegeta's feet. If you look carefully, you can see that one of Nappa's arms is completely bent and most of it has been useless. He was drooling and his face was extremely ugly. Recalling just now, he was about to hit Sun Wuhan, but he was attacked by the Namekians and his arm was crippled. Shame again. Vegeta couldn't bear it anymore, grabbed Nappa's wrist, lifted him up and threw him into the air. You trash. No, Vegeta, please no. No matter how stupid Nappa knew what Vegeta was going to do, he begged for mercy loudly, shouting with the last of his strength. The hysterical yelling can't change Vegeta's determination. At this moment, Vegeta still believes in the primitive idea and kills the guys who are useless to him. Today's Nappa is already a burden and it is useless to keep it. A round ball of light flashed around him like a small glowing sun, and the surrounding stones were shattered into powder and swallowed by energy. This fighting power moved the hearts of the people present, and no one dared to underestimate it. Suddenly, the ball of light rushed upwards with a bright light, like a dragon ascending to heaven. So strong. This Saiyan is much better than a big guy. Piccolo covered the dazzling light and gritted his teeth lightly. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a figure rushing towards the blazing energy, and his relentless figure shocked him. It was RADITS. Don't just kill someone. While roaring, RADITS threw out the energy bomb that had already been accumulated, and the blue ball of light flew out in a spinning motion, hitting Vegeta's energy wave impartially, separating it a few meters away and flying up to the ground. The endless blue sky. At the same time, Monkey King flew over, caught Nappa and walked towards his companions. Why? Why save me, Kakarot? Nappa was already desperate when he was facing death, but he didn't expect that Raditz and Kakarot would rush to save him. He had mixed feelings for a moment, and an indescribable feeling surged in his heart. Everyone is a Saiyan. Sun Wukong replied simply and clearly, dragged him to a distance and put him on the ground. The others also began to avoid with a tacit understanding, making room for the decisive battle between Raditz and Vegeta. Among them, Raditz is the strongest, but Nappa doesn't know it yet. He said to Sun Wukong, Raditz is looking for death. You and the Namek people may have a chance. You don't know the horror of Vegeta at all. No, you don't know the horror of Raditz at all. Before Nappa could finish speaking, Piccolo interrupted his words. Sun Wukong also nodded. My brother and I have fought many times, but we haven't won a single time. I believe he can beat Vegeta. Haha, there was another time when so many of us were taken care of by him alone. I'm really not reconciled. It's an unbearable past, Kellen added. Listening to what they said, Nappa was shocked again and finally completely dumbfounded. You, what on earth? The wind caught his voice and blew it between Vegeta and Raditz. Unlike Nappa, Vegeta saw Raditz's extraordinariness early on. Although he couldn't believe how much progress he could make in 1 year on Earth, the performance of Monkey King just now gave Nappa a resounding slap in the face. Can't be more careless. Raditz, what the hell did you do? Your combat power should only be 1,500, and those people on Earth can't possibly have more than 2,000 combat power. Your question is the key to defeating Frieza. Raditz deliberately kept it off. Wanna hear it? HMPH, Vegeta snorted coldly and stopped talking. If you think about one word or two, it's all up to you. I guess you wouldn't want to be Frieza's subordinate for the rest of your life, would you? I'll hit you and tell me, Raditz, you make me very angry. Vegeta approached Raditz step by step, the furious fire in his eyes flickered as if he was going to burn everyone. His aura rose sharply, let the earth tremble. I am the Prince of the Saiyans, you may have forgotten this, let me remind you again today. Before the words were finished, Vegeta's figure disappeared and suddenly appeared beside Raditz with a punch already sunk into Raditz's stomach, and the battle suit was as fragile as paper, shattered into slag. Raditz's eyes widened, his abdomen sank suddenly, and severe pain spread throughout his body. A mouthful of blood flowed out slowly. Fiery pain spread throughout Raditz's body, and a burst of soreness and convulsions swam away like an electric current, and a panic suddenly appeared in his heart. The fighting power of 18,000 is really no joke. He didn't expect Vegeta's attack to be so powerful, much stronger than the opponents he had fought in the past. Just this punch made him feel the endless energy and resentment from Vegeta. Vegeta Rage. As the Prince of the Saiyans, when he was 5 years old, his combat power had already crushed a group of adult fighters. His talent surpassed all other Saiyans, and he was regarded as the hope of the Saiyans by King Vegeta. In his eyes, he is the strongest Saiyan, even his father King Vegeta is just older, and he can surpass him in time. Those so-called high-level fighters are all rubbish in his opinion. Low-level fighters like Kakarot and Raditz didn't catch his eyes at all. Back then, when Raditz and his team were performing missions, they didn't dare to speak loudly at all and had to ask for instructions on everything, and he didn't drive Raditz away because of Raditz's hard work. But now, the two inferior Saiyans provoked him wantonly and even dared to threaten him. The most damning thing is that Raditz wants to show his power beyond him. This is absolutely impossible. Vegeta roared angrily and punched Raditz's body one after another. The force shattered the hard battle suit, shaking the ground with ravines and ravines, making it a mess. Raditz, what's the strength you want to show? Show me! Vegeta gathered his strength and hit Raditz's cheek with a ruthless blow, sending him flying. The figure flew upside down for tens of meters and slid along the ground for a long time before stopping in the dusty sky. Raditz was knocked down, Tianjin Fan was shocked. From their vantage point, Raditz was attacked by Vegeta before being knocked to the ground again. There is no room for resistance at all. Is Vegeta really that strong? Everyone couldn't help becoming nervous and clenched their fists. Yamcha said sadly, Wukong, I remember you said that Raditz didn't train hard this month. Is it because of this? No, my brother is very serious in training, but every 8 hours of training, half of the 8 hours are spent on training the most basic physical fitness. Could it be that the body is dull? No, you should feel it carefully. His aura hasn't weakened. Wukong smiled confidently, and that aura is still expanding, reaching an unprecedented height. The voices of the crowd suddenly choked. They were all masters in applying chi, and after they calmed down, they immediately felt Raditz's still powerful chi. Looking at him again, sure enough, Raditz slowly supported the ground and got up again. HMPH, it's not easy for you to still stand up. Vegeta said sarcastically, it seems that you are not completely nonsense. You can still stand up after so many punches from me, which shows that your strength has been greatly improved. If I'm not wrong, you and Kakarot should both have more than 10,000 combat powers. Raditz wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and nodded, you guessed right. No wonder you've become confident, but so what? Vegeta approached with a yell and his figure disappeared into the air. Raditz was startled and immediately felt the danger behind him. His hair stood on end and he subconsciously turned back. But the attack had already arrived and Raditz rushed to the top with a fierce elbow and Raditz quickly blocked it with his hands folded. Immediately afterwards, Vegeta jumped to the front again, raised his foot, and Raditz, who was twisted, flipped at an incredible angle and missed another blow. Vegeta looked at Raditz, who was dodging blindly, and shouted arrogantly, no matter how you improve, my combat power is still higher than yours. There is a difference in talent between us, this is an unchangeable fact, understand? While he was yelling, he was accumulating power in his hand. A white light lit up in his palm and the energy bullets hit in succession. Boom, boom, boom. Every time an energy bomb is fired, the ground trembles. People thousands of miles away thought there was a big earthquake and rushed to seek refuge in the open, terrified. Even Tianjin Fan and the others couldn't help but shed cold sweat, the pressure like a needle pierced into the muscles and bones, making them feel horrified. The endless bombing blasted the originally cracked ground into countless pieces. A huge mushroom cloud rose between the sky and the earth, and the smoke and dust went away with the wind. There was no grass growing around, stone chips scattered, and RADITS lay quietly in the deep pit, motionless. HMPH, garbage is garbage, it won't work after all. If you have the ability, stand up and show me you stand. Vegeta's mouth was half open and RADITS was not blown down at all. His strong body slowly stepped out of the smoke screen, stepped out of the pit with both feet, and stood in front of Vegeta again, majestic as a mountain. "I'm sorry, the warm-up is over, I understand your strength." Raditz put his hands on his waist, drinking softly and bursting out with a burst of white arrogance. "You actually..." Vegeta was shocked and felt an invisible pressure rushing towards his face. The number on the detector jumped violently from more than 10,000 and finally stopped at 20,000. "Are you kidding me? 20,000 combat power. Impossible, impossible, you are just a low-level fighter." Vegeta was sweating profusely, his body became cold instantly and his breathing stagnated. He tried many possibilities of Raditz, but he never thought of surpassing himself. In his opinion, he could not surpass himself. What's more, it's only been 2 years since they separated. What is enough time for this? No matter how much you improve, you are still just a low-level fighter. This is a talent fixed at birth and it cannot be changed. The pride of being a Saiyan prince was deeply hit, and Vegeta yanked the detector off and crushed it into pieces. "The detector must be broken, Raditz, you can't overtake me." Raditz brushed off the dust on his body, rubbed his shoulders and wrists, making a click sound, as if he was doing warm-up exercises before exercising. Apart from the dilapidated combat uniform on his body, there were no other injuries, and even the blood at the corner of his mouth was nothing. It was really careless to be succeeded by a surprise attack by Vegeta. But by taking this opportunity, I also got a general understanding of Vegeta's power, speed, and combat mode. There is a difference of 2,000 combat power, which is not a small gap at this stage, and Raditz is not afraid of him. "Now it's time for me to show my true strength." Raditz assumed a fighting posture, his eyes sharp as a sword. Vegeta and Nappa were full of horror, while others were full of anticipation, especially Goku, whose blood was already boiling. The power that Raditz erupted shocked everyone, and the air around him crackled like thunder. The atmosphere is trembling, and it seems to be in awe of that majesty. This is your true face." Vegeta's palms were full of sweat and he looked at Raditz, his face changed drastically. "Let's go." Raditz's mouth moved slightly and he shot first, and before Vegeta could react, he was already close to his face. Vegeta's pupils shrank suddenly, his whole body was like a tight string, and he instinctively punched forward, but it just missed. Raditz's figure flashed like a ghost and he disappeared long ago. Vegeta, who couldn't sense chi, looked around with his eyes but couldn't lock Raditz at all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Raditz kicked him in the lower back, followed by a Qigong wave blasting him away. The powerful force caused Vegeta's body to feel the pain of being torn apart. His back was as hot as fire and he got better after rolling 2 times in a row. Vegeta panicked. He was lucky just now, thinking that the detector had malfunctioned. Now he is 100% sure that Raditz's strength is definitely 20,000. Just relying on this faster speed than him is enough to torture him for a while. Thoughts flashed for a moment and Vegeta felt unwilling. Although he was not as good as Raditz, his arrogance was still there. No matter what he said, he still has 18,000 combat power, and with countless combat experience, he can't believe that he can compete with Raditz. The blood of the Saiyans is flowing in their veins and the will to fight is flourishing. Vegeta is also getting stronger invisibly. "If you want to fight, just fight hard, fight thoroughly." Screaming wildly, Vegeta took the initiative to rush towards Raditz. The two collided together and hundreds of fist shadows were pushed out staggeredly. The turbulent storm whizzed away quickly, the rocks collapsed and the ground was shattered. Even the sky became cloudy and gloomy. Vegeta mobilized the energy of his whole body, raised the sensitivity of the senses to a higher level, and gradually learned the way of perception of the people on Earth. Although it was not complete, he was so talented that he actually noticed a little danger. Behind, accompanied by shouting, Vegeta turned around and swept his leg. Raditz was shocked. His high-speed movement just now shifted to behind Vegeta. He thought it was safe, but he didn't expect to be noticed. In other words, his speed has been slowly caught up. Saiyans are indeed a terrifying race. They can improve every time they fight, even during battles. Raditz also became excited. What's the point of fighting one-sidedly? This is the only way to be energetic. He also has the blood of the fighting nation in his body, and the will to fight has been aroused at this moment. Backed away sharply, dodging Vegeta's sweeping legs almost without stagnation, and Raditz quickly approached again. After entangled with Vegeta for several moves, he finally hit his chest and abdomen with a punch. There was a crisp and loud kara and the breastplate shattered. Immediately afterwards, Vegeta's stomach juice rolled and he spit it out. Raditz didn't miss this opportunity, jumped on top of Vegeta, raised his hands high and hammered his back. Call out. Like a meteor across the sky, Vegeta fell into the ground. Both hands of Raditz gathered a huge amount of energy, and the energy exploded to the peak. A layer of blazing white light attached to the palm of the hand, making people blinded by the flash. As soon as Vegeta got up, he saw the white light from the sky, and his world became bright white. Countless Qigong waves were launched from Raditz's hands, and the blazing white light balls flew towards Vegeta in succession, bombarding wildly. The huge power made the earthquake tremble continuously, and the sound of dong 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 made everyone in the distance feel flustered. Hey, Wukong, they won't destroy the earth directly, right? I feel very dangerous if they continue to fight like this. Kellen wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the Qigong wave flying down in panic. The continuous waves of Qigong almost formed a waterfall, bombarding like a wash. The air exploded, and the smoke and dust turned into a huge curtain, blocking the connection between heaven and earth. Every Qigong Pokling didn't have the confidence to continue, but such a dense attack hit one place and one person. It was too terrifying. Don't punch the earth too. Don't worry, he has already controlled the range and he only stared at Vegeta's body to attack. There is absolutely no problem. Moreover, Vegeta still has some strength. You can feel carefully that his chi has not weakened much. So to say, the monster, under such a violent attack, it can still support it. Piccolo couldn't help but marvel. He has always had some conceit. He is unwilling to admit defeat in the face of Wukong, and he is determined to win even in the face of Raditz. But seeing such a duel, his self-confidence gradually faded, like a pheasant standing on the ground looking at the soaring falcon, only envious. Soon, Raditz threw out the final blow. The most powerful energy bomb pierced the air, and the bright light was dazzling, and it went straight to Vegeta like an arrow. The explosion came immediately, and a mushroom cloud rose up with a boom, and the impact spread to all directions along with the vibration. The rocks were completely shattered and the ground was already devastated. On the broken ground, Vegeta straddled his legs, crossed his hands above his head, and tightly protected his head. His armor was blasted to pieces, and even the combat tights inside had a few big holes, and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. Dust covered his body, making his face a little messy and embarrassed. But the flames in his eyes didn't go out, instead they grew stronger. His fists were clenched tightly and his muscles supported the blue tights. "Radies, you see, I have withstood your attack. Next, it's my return." When Vegeta yelled, his hands were already in a stance, and when he stepped on the ground, a deep pit appeared on the ground and the figure had already galloped away. Raditz's expression froze, and he instinctively became alert. The two confronted each other, punched out with both fists, and each hit the other's cheek. Almost at the same time, the legs of the two also collided, the shins faced each other, and the air exploded with a loud noise. Raditz was a little surprised and thought to himself, why is this guy much stronger than before? Can he still improve? Stopping his backward body, Vegeta had already disappeared and suddenly rushed out from behind, slashing with a knife in his hand. Rush! Raditz quickly lowered his head and dodged a blow. Taking advantage of the momentum, he swung his long legs, turned around, and kicked, all in one go. The victory lies in the long hands and long legs. And the attack distance is farther. As long as Vegeta's close quarters bunt is blocked, he will gradually gain the advantage. Sure enough, the kick hit Vegeta, and the distance between the two was widened. Ha 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 ha, you are nothing more than that. Vegeta brushed off the dust on his body, his iconic hair swaying slightly in the wind, and his confident smile appeared on his face again. It seems that your strength after breaking out can rival me, Raditz said in a deep voice. That's it, I'm the strongest Saiyan. Not necessarily, I still have a useless trick. Raditz relaxed his hands and smiled. HMPH, say whatever you want. Vegeta's eyes were sharp and his face was full of satisfaction. Don't you have another trick? You can use it and try it and I will still defeat you. After a great battle, he felt that his strength had improved again, and the arrogance of the prince was revealed again. It's too wasteful to use it like this. Raditz shook his head, suddenly took out a detector and threw it to Vegeta. What does this mean? Vegeta asked with a frown while holding the detector. I don't understand this, I'm going to start pretending. Raditz sighed in disappointment and cast a helpless look at Vegeta. He pointed to the detector and motioned Vegeta to put it on. Fortunately, Vegeta finally cooperated with the performance and put on the detector dubiously, otherwise Raditz couldn't help but hold him down and put it on for him. The measurement upper limit of the old detector is too low. I specially asked the scientists on Earth to modify the accuracy and measurement upper limit. The current detector can measure 50,000 combat power. Ha 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 ha, you won't tell me that you can reach 50,000 combat power, right? Raditz, why didn't you find out that you have a sense of humor before? Vegeta sneered mercilessly, even killing him would not believe Raditz's combat power there can be 50,000. 50,000 combat power, didn't that kill him early in the morning? Of course I don't have 50,000, but it will surprise you. Raditz tensed his body again, his muscles agitated and his veins exploded. That head of long hair swayed behind him with the ends slightly curled up, shrouded in the fatting red flames. The air is rising rapidly, the dark clouds have dissipated and the sky is rediscovered and the atmosphere is almost static. Here we come, Kaioken, Piccolo and Wukong whispered at the same time. Others were hesitant to speak as if something was stuck in their throats, unable to confide, but the surprise in their hearts was hard to conceal. Their hands trembled unconsciously, it was the fear that originated from the heart. In Bulma's home, dense wires were dragged from one room to another, and 3 high-end and sophisticated instruments were neatly arranged on the table and connected to the main computer screen. These instruments are currently the most excellent equipment on the Earth. As a genius scientist of the capsule company, Bulma's scientific talent is beyond doubt. What she is using these devices to receive now is the data from the Saiyan detectors, and the data that is thousands of miles away can appear on the screen within a few milliseconds deviation. Because Raditz wanted to monitor the effectiveness of the detector and Bulma also wanted to study this inter-universe communication technology, the two reached a cooperation. At this moment, Bulma was standing in front of the screen, standing blankly. She saw a number on the screen beating constantly from 20,000 to 30,000 and then to 40,000. The equipment was running efficiently and the flickering light spots jumped at an astonishingly fast frequency. With the sound of buzzing, the fan works quickly to cool down. I tested Gixianren's combat power and it's only 139. Who is this? Could it be Wukong or Raditz? Bulma's face changed drastically in fright. Although she didn't know what the specific combat power value represented, she could tell 40,000 is such a big number. Far beyond the limit of the original detector, that is to say, the combat power of 40,000 is no longer a value that ordinary people can achieve. After all, this detector is used in the universe. Also shocked was Mr. Wushin, who was far away in the turtle house. He felt that 2 huge chi were fighting fiercely and one of them was still rising to a level that he could not even imagine. It was Raditz's gas. Beep 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 beep. The detector kept refreshing the upper limit and the number was finally fixed at 41,100. More than 40,000 fighting power. Vegeta's pupils have lost focus and his empty eyes suddenly turned pale. There is only a warm feeling of dizziness in his head and there is nothing else. The oppressive feeling that hit his face would not be deceiving. The red flames erupting from Raditz's body exploded in the air, like a miniature thunderbolt exploding. The muscles seemed to be full of strength, and the power that escaped was so shocking that one's heart tightened, not daring to relax. The ensuing storm blew one after another, blowing away all the running tyrannosaurs, reaching the extreme frenzy. "No, it's impossible." Vegeta shook his head inexplicably, trembling inexplicably. What he said just now was like a joke, and instantly felt a burning pain on his face as if he had been slapped hard. Still murmuring the word impossible in his mouth, his mentality exploded in place. "Vegeta, if you want to fight, we can continue, but I still want you to seriously consider my suggestion. Join us to deal with Frieza. You don't think you can be proud. I am the strongest Saiyan in the universe." Raditz is speechless, and now he still has to worry about who is strong or not. Isn't it obvious here? A prince's self-esteem is a troublesome thing sometimes. However, Vegeta's strength is crucial, and Raditz doesn't want to give up. It seems that he can only be beaten up. Well, just do it. After making up his mind, Raditz moved. He connected the palms of his hands, bent his 5 fingers, and pushed them from the front to his waist. Came Qigong's opening gesture. When he and Sun Wukong practiced, they specifically asked for advice on the usage of Kempai Qigong. Although the principle is simple, it is different from other moves. It seems that a single qi releases great energy, but in fact the way qi operates is very different. This also caused a fundamental difference in everyone's unique skills. Kempai Qigong is not the most powerful, but it has the best balance and it has subsequent outbreaks. It is indeed the most popular nirvana on Earth. Just this trick lets decide the outcome. Try my garlic cannon. Vegeta was unwilling to admit defeat, gathering chi with both hands to gather his fighting power. He has already fought with his back to the wall, and there is no way to retreat. The originally planned trip to the Earth is very simple: kill a bunch of trash, eat some good food, then find the Dragon Ball to fulfill your wish and finally walk away. Who would have thought it would turn out like this? The unwillingness and anger in his chest were all integrated into this earth-shattering blow, which was about to blast Raditz into scum. Garrett Cannon attack. At the same time, Kameup Qigong was pushed to the front, and the red arrogance of Kaiweng Fist dyed Kameup Qigong red and the light shot out. The majestic storm swept across and rushed for thousands of miles, causing Gohan and others to cover their eyes with their hands, and they could only judge the situation by chi. The machines in Bulma's house in the distance were roaring, and the long hours of work had pushed them to their limit. The cooling capacity of the fan cannot keep up with the speed of heat generation. Boom! The device exploded, sending out a puff of smoke. Regarding Kaiwenquin, my understanding is that the double start, the highest death penalty, the body cannot bear the burden. There's a saying on the internet that the original King boxing is 1.5 times, which I always feel weird and not very credible. In addition, there's a picture saying that the use of Tanappa is 2 times, so the increase of Kaiwenquin starts from times 2. Then maybe Juenquin equals double Kaiwenquin, or Juenquin only serves to increase the upper limit of each value. In addition, I personally think that the multiplier refers to the increase in the opponent's boxing, and does not directly affect the combat power. The ocean-like force gathered in the center of the sky and the earth, and the 2 Qigong waves clashed to form a huge ball of light. The energy evacuated everything around it like a small black hole, attracting gravel, vegetation, and even vortexes on the ground. Air. The turbulent tornado covered the sky, and Yu Wei turned the ground into real ruins, leaving only 2 figures in the light between the sky and the earth. Vegeta kept screaming, adding momentum to himself. The meridians on his forehead burst out and his eyes were bloodshot. Raditz is relatively calm, his hands feel the impact of strong resistance, but he is still able to handle it with ease. You lost. With a loud shout, Raditz suddenly exerted strength. Surrounded by crimson flames, he swallowed the Garrick hole like a very hungry lion and rushed towards Vegeta. The crimson light tide submerged it, and the terrible shock wave flew into the universe, and the sound of explosions was continuous. Wherever it passed, all the low-altitude trees, mountains, and rocks were turned into dust. In the air, the smoke gradually dissipated, and Vegeta was in a panic, panting violently, and appeared in sight. He was covered in bruises, his hair was frizzy, One hand was obviously not flexible, his clothes were torn and full of holes, and there was a black spot at the corner of his mouth, whether it was dust or blood stains. The most shocking thing is that the fighting spirit in his eyes still hasn't subsided, and the power of anger supports him so that he doesn't fall down. "Why did you stop in the end, you bastard?" Vegeta was furious. "I didn't expect you to find out. Raditz eliminated the state of Kaioken. I don't want to kill you, I won't use all my strength." Enough. Vegeta stopped Raditz. His self-esteem was hit again. "I won't try my best. Doesn't that mean that he is not worthy? It's just insulting." Vegeta clenched his fists tightly, trembling all over, experiencing for the first time the feeling of being defeated by his fellow clansmen. What was impossible to happen in the past actually happened. He was suffocating blood in his throat, and he didn't know whether to spit it out or swallow it. "You see, this is my strength. May I consider my suggestion now?" "Pooh." Vegeta still spat out the blood. "I refuse. I am the Prince of the Saiyans, and I will not listen to your arrangements." In the end, it was still the arrogance in his heart that prevailed, and he couldn't do it if he was asked to surrender like a defeated general. Even if Raditz really has a brilliant way to improve his strength, he can't just obey orders. This is the dignity of a Saiyan prince. He can be defeated, but he will never admit defeat. "Fuck you, Prince." Raditz couldn't bear it this time and rushed over to grab Vegeta's hair. "The prince is not in vain. Even planet Vegeta has been destroyed. There are a total of several people who still don't listen to you. What's the use?" Enraged by his stubbornness, Raditz threw him to the ground by his hair. Boom! Vegeta sank into the ruined ground. He turned his back into a big character. The cold air kept twitching from his mouth. His muscles were sore and weak. He was too tired. Suddenly, he found a round ball of light reflected in the high sky. His heart was beating violently in response. His pupils were collapsing, and his blood was rushing violently in his body like a burst of torrents. Full moon. No, it's an artificial moon. That halo is not natural but an artificial moon. Before Vegeta had time to think about its source, the thick hair had already begun to emerge and his body gradually agitated and became huge. As a high-level fighter, he can gain sanity after transforming, that is to say, he will once again have the advantage. Thinking of this, Vegeta laughed wildly and welcomed the giant ape with open arms. Far away. Tianjin Fan rolled his third eye, his voice trembling. "Win." "I guess so, Wukong." Kellen wasn't sure either. Son Wukong nodded. "The strength of the two is about the same when the Kaioken is not used, but once the Kaioken is used, my brother has the upper hand. Vegeta has already lost." Nappa, who was held in his hand, stared blankly at Q Hui, speechless. That trash Raditz from before actually beat up Vegeta. Isn't this world crazy? Just when everyone was about to approach, Vegeta's laughter reached everyone's ears, and a huge figure rose up from below, towering like a mountain and extremely shocking. Great ape. Raditz was shocked. There will never be a full moon today. How could Vegeta turn into a giant ape? Before recovering from his astonishment, the great ape Vegeta greeted him with a punch. With his huge body, his speed has not weakened, and his strength is so great that it is unbelievable. Raditz was beaten upside down, and the bridge of his nose hurt sharply, as if thousands of needles were pricking it at the same time, pouring fire into it. Raditz fell to the ground, trembling all over. The bridge of his nose was broken. Dark red blood flowed down the outline, and his lips were dyed a coquettish red. "Raditz die!" Vegeta shouted violently and rushed to Raditz like lightning, raising his leg with a kick. With one kick, Raditz was almost smashed into meat paste. Countless gravels were blasted from the ruins and dust swept away like a sandstorm. Raditz dodged the stampede, tossed and jumped and ran to a distance, trying to distance himself. But the giant ape jumped up and its huge body drew an arc in the air. The shadow covered the road in front of Raditz and suddenly landed with a bang. It's actually faster than Raditz. Apart from anything else, the giant ape Vegeta unscrupulously erupted with the most primitive violence. Blazing white waves spewed out of his mouth, and violently smashed and swung his fists and feet with a monstrous momentum. Let alone Raditz, even the earth can't stand such a tyrannical force. Raditz used the Triple Realm King Fist but was crushed by the giant ape's punch, dragging a long line of blood and retreated 100 meters. Although he avoided the fatal part, he still received a huge impact, and his blood-stained body exuded a fishy smell and smashed hard to the ground. His chest was full of blood, and he spat out a big mouthful of bright red blood with a wow. Even the Triple Realm King Fist couldn't withstand it. He didn't expect this blow to be so powerful, so strong. Vegeta has spent so long. Is there still more than 10,000 combat power left? If I had known about the Kenpai Qigong just now, I would have put in more effort. Sure enough, the great ape-like Saiyans are not easy to mess with, especially the sensible ones. If it weren't for Vegeta's previous physical injury, Raditz would not even have a chance of being alive now. Even if his Kaioken improved his abilities, it would be difficult to face the great ape-like Vegeta head-on. The storm brushed Raditz's cheeks like a blade, and he rubbed his hands on his chest. His fingers gradually curled into fists. Hateful. Raditz rolled around and hid under the rock pile. What followed was a huge light wave from the giant ape's mouth, exploding a beautiful arc of light on the horizon. Raditz, today is your end. The cry declaring death was accompanied by the impact of the giant ape like a mountain pressing down on Raditz, and a punch hit Raditz's body, making a loud noise that bombarded the eardrums. But this time, Raditz didn't retreat. He put his hands in front of him, and the red arrogance all over his body shot up into the sky, blocking the great ape's fist. Blocked, Vegeta froze for a moment in disbelief. Fist of the five-fold Realm King. The blood from the corner of Raditz's mouth dripped down to his Adam's apple, and it took a huge burden on his body to perform this move. But what he wanted was Vegeta's carelessness for a moment. Taking advantage of this gap, he quickly approached and rushed to Vegeta's eyes. Shine Shockwave. The hands had no time to store energy, and they radiated directly, aiming at Vegeta's eyes. In an instant, Vegeta actually covered his eyes with his hand, and the powerful shock wave only hit the back of his hand, blasting a cloud of blood mist. Blood slid down the hairy giant hands and fell on the rocks everywhere. Raditz was slightly terrified. Kill you? The furious Vegeta opened his mouth at Raditz. This distance is almost a must. Can't escape. Raditz exploded at 5 times the speed of the King Fist of the realm, still feeling the pressing pressure chasing after him, and the light immediately engulfed him. There is no other way. Raditz can only defend himself against the shock wave. When the light faded, the red flames around him also disappeared. He rolled a few times in the air and jumped to the ground. He was panting violently and his joints were sore. The resistance at the critical moment just now allowed him to escape, but the burden on his body still made him feel uncomfortable, and his muscles could no longer exert their full strength. Ha ha ha, very clever, but your death is only a matter of time. Vegeta laughed wildly. Sure enough, he strode closer to Raditz. Huh, am I going to become a giant ape too? What if I lose my mind? Raditz smiled helplessly, his brows drooping. The 5 times Realm King Fist is his limit. If it is full, he is naturally worthy, but now he has consumed a lot, not to mention the durability of the giant ape is much higher than the Realm King Fist. At this point, there is no way to win without changing into a giant ape. There is only one gamble. My own tail is still there and I didn't take it off for research, but I didn't expect it to be useful. He looked up at the sky, searching for signs of the moon, and sure enough, he saw an artificial moon. At the same time, Raditz's body changed. Thump thump, boom 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 boom. The heart was beating powerfully, faster and faster, as if hundreds of people were beating copper hammers at the same time, hitting his chest directly. At the same time, thick hair protruded from his body and his body suddenly swelled, stretching the tights to the extreme, crushing the rubble-covered ruins. The process of change was very rapid, and before Vegeta came to him, he had become a giant ape. Roar! The ferocious beast woke up and roared loudly. 2 great apes. Wukong and others retreated in horror, not knowing what to do. From just now, the development of things has exceeded their expectations. Raditz explained the transformation of the giant ape to them, but they have already driven away the moon in advance after being fully prepared. Why does the moonlight still appear? They gritted their teeth tightly and panicked when they saw the mysterious ball of light hanging high in the sky. Are they all crazy? No, Vegeta is not crazy. Transforming into a giant ape may lose his mind, but a genius fighter can overcome it with 1 or 2 training sessions, just like exercising his tail. If a lower-level fighter wants to maintain his sanity, he needs to go through a lot of battles and, my brother said he wasn't sure if he could control himself. Wukong's words made everyone gasp. Only Nappa gritted his teeth and said RADITS is not good enough. He has a 50% chance of going crazy after transforming. Sometimes he can control it well and sometimes he will go crazy to the end. It's best to be mentally prepared. Bar. With a half chance, it's too dangerous to deal with this battle that can't be lost, right? Wukong wants to help, but his combat power is nothing in front of the giant ape, and blindly shooting is tantamount to death. At this moment, RADITS stood up, beat his chest with both hands and sprayed out several Qigong bombs from his mouth, flying in all directions. Vegeta was overjoyed by the ruthless bombing and sure enough, RADITS's ape transformation was far worse than his sobriety. Vegeta shouted and punched RADITS's head hard with a tricky angle heading for the temple. Huge strength erupted from the majestic arms, both fast and ruthless, bursting with killing intent. Boom! There was a breathtaking bang and the behemoth fell to the ground. Everyone was shocked. It was Vegeta who fell down. Seeing that the punch was about to touch RADITS's head just now, Wukong couldn't help but use the Kaiwang fist and rushed away. At the very moment, RADITS dodged nimbly and hooked Vegeta's ankle with one foot, causing him to fall to the ground. He didn't lose his mind. On the contrary, due to the replacement of his soul, his mental power has become more than several times stronger. Now he is not only awake but also very energetic. Deliberately showing clumsiness is to make Vegeta careless. Once the huge body fell to the ground, it was not so easy to stand up, and the initiative in the battle quietly changed hands. RADITS shouted excitedly, but he also made a mistake, and he was also careless. Vegeta also had a tail and it also hooked his ankles, and with a quick jerk, his center of gravity was unstable and he bent his knees and threw himself down. Both great apes fell down. RADITS, who was kneeling on the ground, threw himself at Vegeta and slapped Vegeta hard on the face. What greeted him was a heavy counterattack from the abdomen, and then the two hugged each other, rolled a few times and crushed the ground. In the end, the two simply wrestled together, punching to the flesh, and RADITS even used biting, the most primitive, clumsy, but most violent attack. Vegeta yelled in pain, "Trash, let me go." Unexpectedly, RADITS really let go of his mouth but received a punch like lightning, hitting Vegeta straight on the bridge of the nose, repaying the debt. That's right, I was useless before, but don't you think that people will grow up eventually and the weak will become stronger one day? The belief in becoming stronger is unchanged in everyone's heart. I am indeed not as noble as you, but if you put it's wrong to use this as your arrogant capital. I will defeat you today and I will prove it to you. RADITS took a step forward and the Kaio fist broke out in the giant ape state. The huge figure was so fast that it was unbelievable. He stood up and the palm of his hand struck out instantly, covering Vegeta's head, knocking him to the ground and then pressing him firmly into the ground. Ridiculous, what do you know, I was born to be a prince. Vegeta suddenly smiled contemptuously. He endured the pain and said with his almost twitching mouth, I am the strongest. Really? RADITS added more force and punched him in the face, sinking several feet in a radius of 1,000 meters, almost as terrifying as piercing the earth. Vegeta is still saying, do you know what I'm going to do? You don't need to point and tell, I have my way. You and your younger brother, you actually cooperated with the people on Earth to resist me and you lost the dignity of the Saiyans. You are all traitors to the nation. He was so excited that he spat out a big mouthful of blood, running like a waterfall. RADITS still pressed his head tightly, a sticky warm liquid in the palm of his hand. That's your reason? You think I don't know everything about Planet Vegeta? RADITS raised his arm and punched Vegeta in the chest, and the ground sank a few more feet. It was Frieza who destroyed Planet Vegeta and continued to let us work for him, humiliating us in every possible way, and a disagreement is a cruel punishment. Those days, no one has forgotten. After all, another punch. Indeed, we didn't have the strength to fight against Frieza at that time. But when will we be able to take revenge if we live in ecstasy? Will Frieza die from immortality? You are proud of being a Saiyan prince, so do what a prince should do. If you want power, we have it. The dignity of a prince is not the fear of other people, and the title of prince is not the pride of Saiyans. Only keep getting stronger, gaining strength, surpassing the limit, surpassing Forley Saw beyond any other strong in the universe. This is the fighting nation of the Saiyans. Pride. Raditz gathered all his strength with his last punch, raised his hand high and slammed down. Accompanied by the last two words are deafening. The fist finally ended a few centimeters in front of Vegeta, and the fierce punch made the face of the giant ape slightly deformed, and the hair stood up. You make a decision. It is definitely the fastest way to become stronger by practicing with us. I will only help you and will not interfere with you. Raditz opened his fist and turned it into a handshake gesture over their brother, that is Kakarot. He also has a fighting power of over 10,000, and if he uses the King Fist, he is not weaker than you. If you want to challenge us, you are welcome at any time. Raditz actually admires the arrogance in Vegeta's heart, and Vegeta is also different and respected because of this. When he is arrogant, he is handsome and domineering, and occasionally there will be contrasts and cuteness. What's more, this is his motivation to keep getting stronger. There are too many strong men in the vast universe, and dealing with Frieza is just the beginning. Vegeta shouted for a long time as if he wanted to vomit all his anger, and the sound wave that shook the world was clearly a surge of unwillingness. Vegeta's long roar pierced the sky like a sharp sword and shook in all directions. In front of him, Raditz stretched out his hand, his strong arms ready to pull him up at any time. Sun Wukong and others in the distance, watching the changes in the situation, slowly approached. On another high slope, a group of people stood in the yellow wind, watching them. "My lord, should we take action at this time? Annihilate them in one fell swoop," a strong man with long braids said viciously. He was as tall and muscular as Nappa, almost tearing his clothes. The most weird thing is that the strong man is actually wearing a Saiyan battle suit. And the few people beside him were all dressed in similar clothes, except for one whose whole body seemed to be covered with metal armor. Behind the few people, the guy called Master in combat uniform looked coldly at the two giant apes and let out a triumphant and cold laugh. "Annihilation, are you joking? Their fighting power is not a joke at this time." "But, my lord, isn't it the moon you made on purpose? That's why we can see such a wonderful fight." They don't have much physical strength anymore. Wait a little longer and find a good time to let them change back to their original form. The rest of the rabble will be much easier to deal with. "My lord is wise." Several people shouted in compliment, then stared at the ruins, showing evil smiles. After Vegeta vented, he calmed down. Looking at Raditz in front of him, he felt very strange to him. The former Raditz was very useless among the Saiyans. At best, he was only a second-rate fighter, a little better than the lowest-level waste like Kakarot. People ridiculed him as an inferior fighter, often made fun of him, and dared not get angry. Today, Raditz has completely changed. His strength is unbelievably strong, and he dares to attack the prince. His aura is not weaker than anyone else at all. The flickering look in his eyes can only be seen in the eyes of very few talented fighters. After a long time, Vegeta stretched out a slightly trembling hand and held it with Raditz. Raditz smiled gently and pulled up Vegeta's huge and weak body with a force, like lifting a mountain that had been pushed down. "Phew, this is a success," Kellen exclaimed with widened eyes. Today's battle was too exciting. Several thrilling places made his little heart almost unbearable, but fortunately, seeing the two shaking hands finally, it was over. The others also secretly wiped off their sweat, relaxed their tightly bound bodies, and accelerated their speed of flying close to the two of them. "Wukong, do you feel something is wrong?" Piccolo didn't feel much joy but felt a little uneasy. Sun Wukong also frowned, looking around. Indeed, there seemed to be several fighting forces lurking nearby. "I was attracted by the battle of the giant ape and didn't notice it, but now I can feel it." "What are you talking about? Isn't it over?" Yamcha moved closer to Wukong and patted him on the shoulder. "Don't be too sensitive. The crisis of the Saiyans has been resolved. Ha ha ha." "Not coming." Wukong and Piccolo shouted in unison. Their expressions suddenly changed. They quickly turned around to look and saw two speeding circular energy discs spinning at high speed, a move very similar to Chi Yuan slash, a cutting skill. Anyone hit by this move will be cut in half. Get out of the way! Wukong unleashed his Kaiwang fist and pushed the Yamcha and dumplings away one by one, but a crack was cut on his back and blood splashed into the sky immediately. And Piccolo jumped at Gohan, hugged Gohan into his arms, and rolled to the side. Unfortunately, one leg was exposed and it happened to be cut off at the knee. Purple blood flowed down the smooth cut and the cold wind was poured into the trouser leg. Uncle Piccolo. I'm fine. Piccolo looked sideways at the energy ring flying away with lingering fear and gritted his teeth. Tianjin Fan was in the neutral position. Two energy rings sandwiched him, almost passing by his body. The heat emitted by the high energy made his skin scorching hot, as if being scorched by charcoal fire. An extremely dangerous blow is simply terrifying. However, it was not over yet. The target of these two attacks was never them but Raditz and Vegeta, who were standing together. After turning into a giant ape, the body is huge and the target couldn't be more obvious. Even if you throw it casually, you can hit it. At the same time as the energy ring flew over, Raditz had already noticed and finally found the source of the anxiety in his heart. Has the person hiding in the darkness finally made a move? Raditz jerked Vegeta up into the air, high enough to avoid the cutting of the energy ring. Two attacks flew past their feet and then went straight up to the blue sky, but two more came immediately after. Raditz, who was hanging in the air, would be okay if he was alone, but dragging Vegeta, he hesitated a little in his reaction. His huge body couldn't make a prediction, so he had to blast a Qigong wave downwards and use the reaction force to rush up again. The flexible energy ring was faster than them, turned a corner, made two swish sounds in no particular order, drew two arcs and flew into the sky. Following the flying direction, two furry, long and thick strips fell in the air and hit the ground with a loud noise. The two people in the air suddenly froze and trembled all over as if they had been struck by lightning. The body of the giant ape began to shrink rapidly, and its hair also rapidly decayed, transforming into a human form. During the transformation process, a Qigong wave flew straight towards them with a diameter of 2 meters. From the inside to the outside, the light gradually changed from white to light pink, and the power contained was so powerful that it could swallow the unsuspecting Raditz and Vegeta. At the critical moment, Monkey King shouted violently, covered in red flames, and started to move at high speed. Triple Realm King Fist. The ultra-high-speed Monkey King arrived first, rushed to the front of Qigong Wave, blocked the two of Raditz, waved his hands vigorously and swept the Qigong Wave with his arms. The light disappeared into the sky, and Raditz and Vegeta completed the transformation at the same time. The consumption of both of them was huge, and they were sweating profusely. Raditz's physical fitness had dropped to less than half, and Vegeta was almost exhausted. "Are you okay, brother?" Sun Wukong protected the two of them, staring at the direction of the Qigong wave. "It's okay, it's just a little bit of physical exertion. It seems that you really expected us to be targeted, and that guy has been watching us from the dark." Wukong clenched his fists tightly and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "This opponent, let's hand him over. Give it to me." Raditz looked up and saw the artificial moon shining in the sky. A flash of light flashed in his mind, and he took a deep breath. Could it be him? There is such a person. He is also a Saiyan, and he did not die in the catastrophe on planet Vegeta. He has a group of evil fighters under his command, forming a legion known as the character even Frieza is afraid of. They relied on eating fruits that only gods can enjoy to increase their strength, wandered around the universe, acted recklessly, destroyed many planets, and became fearsome villains. Raditz remembered the name of the leader of the legion, Dales. The guy who looks very similar to Kakarot, but his personality is 1,000 miles away. Only he can possibly know how to make the moon. For a long time, the source of Raditz's uneasiness was him. "I didn't expect the ominous premonition to come true, and I don't know how strong this guy is now, whether he has planted the seeds of the spiritual tree, and why the timing of appearing here is so coincidental." Raditz murmured a series of questions. Language. At this moment, a group of people rose slowly from the ground into the air, followed by a rapidly growing giant tree. The roots that drilled out quickly tore the ground and branched out into several solid branches. Sure enough, they put in the seeds of the fruit of the spirit tree, and the growth speed of the spirit tree was unimaginably fast, and it didn't take long for it to stand tall, just like countless carnivorous beasts devouring the fat of the earth, enjoying an unparalleled feast of gluttony. Except for RADITS, who had been prepared, everyone else was stunned. Among the people in front of him, the leader looked exactly like Wukong, and he was dressed as a Saiyan. Looking at his appearance and that iconic tail, he looks like a Saiyan. He looks the same as me. Sun Wukong was the most surprised one, his eyes almost protruding from their sockets. HMPH, are you surprised? My name is Dares and I am also a Saiyan. These are my subordinates. In fact, I did not expect that when I was destroying the planet I would encounter a Saiyan spaceship and pass by. After analysis, it was found that it was Prince Vegeta and Nappa. I thought that you also died in the explosion of Star Vegeta, but I didn't expect to survive, Dales said. So I followed your route and traced all the way to the Earth and found Raditz and Kakarot by accident. What a surprise. Vegeta snorted coldly and said disdainfully, "You're the one lingering. We low-level fighters who throw away after use are naturally garbage in the eyes of the prince. However, that was before and it is different now." HMPH, all of them. Vegeta gritted his teeth and put on his usual cold and arrogant face, but his heart was full of turmoil because another low-level fighter appeared, and this person's combat effectiveness was also very strong. God is playing with me. When did low-level fighters evolve together? Still, let me meet. Thinking of this, the muscles around his cheeks swelled unconsciously and he felt a deep sense of helplessness. Raditz recalled what King Kai said at the time, that the reason why the Saiyans were late was that they were affected by the impact of the planetary explosion and deviated from their orbits. At that time, it was the good deeds of the Dales Legion. I didn't expect these things to come together. Your current combat effectiveness has been greatly reduced. Can you still challenge me? Dales showed a ruthless expression. Amond, show them your skills. Yes, Lord Dales. A gigantic burly man grinned and moved forward, rubbing his fists with great confidence. At the same time, Piccolo came to Monkey King with other people, and everyone gathered in place. The bold Almond beckoned to Raditz and the others arrogantly, flicking his long braids back, with an expression that I wanted to hit 10. He was originally a vicious criminal with a cruel nature. After following Dales, he took pleasure in destruction. Like Dales, he relied on the fruit of the spirit tree to enhance his strength, and now he has a honeyed self-confidence. What's the origin of this guy? That person is exactly the same as Wukong. Did they sneak attack just now? Damn it, you were too focused on fighting the Saiyans so you didn't notice. Piccolo still remembered the hatred of having his legs cut off and looked at the arrogant Almond with blue veins on his head straight up. Piccolo rushed to the first one, facing Almond. Are you the first guy to come to die? Heh, idiot. You're going to stop laughing in no time. Piccolo gave him a contemptuous look, moved at a high speed, his figure flashed behind Almond and his palm was directly pressed on his back. Such a high speed of movement caught Almond unexpectedly and completely lost his mind. Piccolo suddenly released energy from his palm and bounced him away, and then quickly followed up, striking out with a series of punches. Countless fist shadows slammed on Almond's burly body. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen. He had no power to fight back and could only let out a scream. And Piccolo was still not satisfied. He dodged to every corner, trying his best to vent the anger of his broken limb just now. Almond was really beaten this time. He vomited a few mouthfuls of blood, his mind became dizzy, and no matter how hard he exerted, he was left with nothing but weakness. Raditz was speechless, forcing Dals to pretend it was okay. You pretended to be dead. Piccolo's strength is not a joke. Dales was also slightly taken aback. This guy actually suppressed Almond. He thought that Almond would be enough to deal with most people, but he was beaten terribly when he just made a move. Suddenly, Dales showed a cold smile, stretched out his finger and aimed at Piccolo. Whoosh! A wave of light shot out from a finger, pierced through Piccolo's shoulder like a rapier, and purple blood spurted out. Piccolo was taken aback. He didn't expect that someone would make trouble in the duel between the two. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Almond exploded with all his strength and spun at a high speed, enveloping Piccolo in the attack generated by his own rotation. Bastard surprise attack. This is a life-and-death battle, so blame the Namekians for being too careless. Vegeta snorted coldly. Raditz looked at Dals, felt the powerful chi, and was shocked. He knows how fast the spirit tree grows and he must defeat Dales as soon as possible. Wukong, let's go together and get rid of Dales. I just wanted to teach you a lesson. Since you don't know what to do, don't blame me, have the guts to try. Then try. Dale's Legion attack. As he said that, he rushed out first by himself and rushed in front of Monkey King in an instant. In his eyes, Raditz and Vegeta were already at the end of their strength, and the only threat was Monkey King. Although Piccolo is strong, as a Saiyan, he doesn't think much of other races. Dals is going to take care of Piccolo after he eliminates Monkey King. Besides, Almond's spinning attack has contained Piccolo very well, and the others are also contained by his subordinates, unable to rescue each other, so don't worry about it. Darls felt that he was sure of winning, mustered his strength and punched Wukong with a punch. The screen on the improved version of the detector that fell into the ruins was still beating numbers. After flickering a few times, it stopped at a terrifying number 35,000. The fighting power of Dales is amazing, let's customize it here.